Still good? You
Yeah.
got me? All right, cool.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. There's a little bit of chill in the air. The sun is out. It's a perfect fall day to play the game of college football. Welcome into the Freshies pregame show. We are getting you set for today's college football matchup between John Carroll and Capital. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Danis. Happy homecoming, everybody. It's been a big weekend here at Capital University, welcoming in the new class of 2019 when it comes to the Athletic Hall of Fame here at Capital. Alumni have been coming back here to the Deer Suite campus here in Bexley, Ohio, from miles and miles around. Tom, a very special weekend to be a Crusader.
Oh, definitely. A lot of festivities out this weekend. It's a lot of fun to be a Crusader. We're going to have a packed house here tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully Capital can bring us a pretty good game against a 3-1 JCU squad.
Capital 0-4 overall in the season, 0-3 with an OAC play. They are coming off of yet another loss, this time at the hands of Baldwin-Wallace. The final score in this one, Tom, was 37-7, but it wasn't as big of a blowout that we have seen for Capital. So what would you say about that game against Baldwin-Wallace?
Looking at just the first half, they're only down 16-0, and it really wasn't that big of a deficit. And looking at the games that they've played over the course of this season, that's the lowest deficit they've lost by this year, only 30 points. They've been outscored by a lot more, and I think the defense definitely picked it up against B-Dub, who's no slouch. They're a good offensive team, and I think there's a lot of nice pieces to this defense that are growing as the season goes on. I think they're learning, and I'm excited to see where it gets them today.
Baldwin-Wallace had a 16-0 lead for Capital for virtually all of the first half. It wasn't until the 8-minute mark in the third quarter that Baldwin-Wallace was finally able to get more points up on the board. So maybe, just maybe, Chad Rogaszewski's defense is slowly but surely starting to turn a corner. We know that the defense has been hanging tough as of late, but Tom, you and I were talking before the broadcast today, and we'll talk about this more as the pregame show progresses, but the bottom line is more results have got to be shown by this Capital offense.
100%. And Mayshawk's going to start today's game at quarterback. We're going to see how that plays out. Last time I was in the booth with you, Charlie, it was the Marietta game, and there was 5 turnovers. Mayshock came in. He got hurt. Then Ray came in. Justin McClellan, the freshman, got a few snaps. So it's kind of just a guessing game right now to see who's going to be able to step up and make plays for this team.
Meanwhile, Capital taking on a John Carroll team. The Blue Streaks, they are a squad that we are very accustomed to seeing a strong run game and an equally strong defense. This year, however, Tom, it's pretty interesting. We know that John Carroll typically doesn't light it up when it comes to the passing statistics, but it's these Blue Streaks that have thrown for fewer passing yards than Capital. If you look at the offensive statistics for John Carroll this year, it's the Blue Streaks who are dead last in the conference in passing yards. They still find themselves with an above 500 record, 3-1. Their only loss of the season coming at the hands of Mount Union last week, but yet again, that defense is strong. That run game is going to prove to be a strong point for the John Carroll here today.
Yeah, you're right about that. The passing offense, they don't do it a ton. Only about 88, 89 passes for Jake Floria, the quarterback for John Carroll, and they like to run the ball a lot. Michael Canganelli, their main guy to go to at the halfback position, and he'll get them a lot of yardage. But I'm going to see how it plays out today with knowing Capital's defense and looking at film all week, what their game plan is going to be.
We will have much more of the Freshie pregame show. When we come back, we will take a look around the OAC. We will examine the offensive, defensive, and special teams players of the week from the previous week of play. Get you ready for all the games that will be taking place around the OAC, and even look at a quarterback at an unlikely OAC school that's been lighting it up so far here in 2019. Much more of the Freshie pregame show coming up here on your home for Crusaders football, athletics.capital.edu. Welcome back to the Freshie pregame show as we continue to inch closer and closer to kickoff between John Carroll and Capital. Charlie Dance, Tom Cavanaugh joining you from Burnlore Stadium here in Bexley, Ohio. Homecoming weekend here at Capital University. So let's now go ahead and take a look around the OAC. This look around the Ohio Athletic Conference brought to you by the Rusty Bucket. Let's first examine the offensive, defensive, and special teams players of the week. For the OAC, we start with the offensive player of the week. How about Christian Williams, junior running back for the Ohio Northern Polar Bears. The Sydney, Ohio native ran 30 times for a season-high 183 yards and a touchdown. That to lead ONU to a 31-23 victory over Marietta. Christian Williams continuing to be one of the top running backs in the Ohio Athletic Conference. Siku Imani, senior defensive end from Dover, Ohio. He plays his college football for the Baldwin-Wallace Yellow Jackets. Imani recording 5 tackles, 4 quarterback hurries, a blocked field goal, a fumble recovery that he returned 65 yards for a touchdown, and a safety in B-Dub's 37-7 victory over Capital. Boy, Tom, you look at that stat line for Imani. There are some players who hope they have that stat line during a season. This guy was able to accomplish it in one game.
It's pretty impressive that Imani was able to do this in one game, but they did this against Capital, and if you're looking at a game plan for this game, you cannot let a guy that has the kind of talent on the defensive side of the ball that Imani does, you can't let that happen for the Blue Streaks today. You can't let a guy come out, rush your quarterback several times, block a field goal, run it back, and then get a safety. You got to be able to limit those on the offensive side of the ball.
And finally, the special teams player of the week in the OAC was Tommy Flesser, senior kicker for Ohio Northern, a native of Sunbury, Ohio, former Big Walnut product here in Central Ohio. Flesser averaged 61.1 yards on 6 kickoffs and had a touchback in ONU's 31-23 victory over Marietta last week. So those are the players that stood out last week. How about a player that has stood out throughout the course of the season so far? And that would be Wilmington quarterback Kyle Bear. He has put up some very impressive numbers so far, Tom.
Yeah, Bear's thrown for over 1,300 yards so far within 4 games. It's nice to see. Wilmington, usually on the back burner of the OAC standings most years, 1-2 right now, but 1-3 right now, 1-2 in conference. But he's doing a nice job. But they do have Mount Union today, so I don't know how much higher that passing yardage is going to go up tonight.
By the way, speaking of Mount Union, another standout campaign is being put forward by Deangelo Fulford. Fulford second in the conference in passing yardage, second in the conference in yards per game. He's already got 17 passing touchdowns, does Fulford, and he is completing 70% of his passes. Fulford, now there's a player right there, Tom.
Yeah, Mount Union always breeds these guys, and it's not surprising to see. 70% of those passes need to be completed if you're going to be the starting quarterback for the Mount Union Pioneers.
And now let's go ahead and take a look at the standings around the OAC. Not surprisingly, Mount Union, who finds himself in the top 10 nationally. Perfect 4-0 overall, 3-0 within conference play. So they are your leaders in the OAC right now. Right behind them are Baldwin-Wallace and Ohio Northern. They are both tied for second with equal 3-1 marks within conference play. Heidelberg, John Carroll, and Marietta, each of those teams are 2-1. Wilmington 1-2, Muskingum 1-3. And then the two schools that hail from Central Ohio, Capital and Otterbein, they are combined 0-7 within conference play. Both of those teams, as a matter of fact, are still looking for their first wins, period, of the 2019 season. And then there are only a few games that are going to be played around the OAC today. Grand total of 3. In addition to our game, 2 other games. Marietta playing host to Heidelberg. That game is scheduled for a 2 o'clock kickoff. And Wilmington playing host to Mount Union. That game is scheduled for a 1:30 kickoff, which is the same as our game. When we come back, you'll hear my conversation with Capital head coach Chad Rogoszewski as he gets his team ready to take on John Carroll here on homecoming at Burnlore Stadium. We'll have much more of the Freshie pregame show in just a moment. Welcome back to the Crusaders pregame show. We're getting you set for homecoming as the Capital Crusaders get set to take on the Blue Streaks of John Carroll. I'm Charlie Danson. Joining me now, the head coach of the Capital football program, Chad Rokashevsky. Well, Coach, let's go back to last week, 37-7 loss at Baldwin Wallace. Mitchell Mayshock went 22 of 50 through the air, 232 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. What do you think of Mayshock's performance?
Steady improvement. He'd been out of the lineup due to injury for a couple weeks, and got back in there. Obviously, we'd like to eliminate the interceptions, but I think did some good things, showed some growth things, made some improvements in game. Maybe a misread early in the game, came back to that play, and he read it correctly second time through. So that was encouraging. Just the key with that group again is taking care of the football. I think when we do that, we'll have a chance, but we've struggled with that so far this year.
Cam Lee with 6 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. I've seen this guy make some big plays for your offense in the past. How big will this guy be for your offense going forward?
Well, he's a big-bodied, tight end / receiver. A lot of his duties last week were more at the receiving position, and he's probably a mismatch for a lot of corners and defensive backs just with his size. So we got to take advantage of that. We got to find mismatches that we can create and try to take advantage. So I think if we can get him in position to get into some compete ball situations, or be able to for a box out type catch, where he can just use his size to compete for the ball against the defensive back, we'll be in good shape.
Speaking of wide receivers who can be a big asset for your offense, how about Mike Smith, 6 catches for 68 yards? This is a young man that has a very interesting backstory in terms of how he came into the Capital program.
Yeah, definitely. Mike transferred in from Ohio Dominican, and he really left their program injured. And a year ago, coming in with a little bit more receiver depth that we had, we tried him out at defensive back. I think he would tell you maybe not all the way fully rehabbed, from his situation or to the point he needed to be, and ended up getting re-injured last year. Really attacked his rehab in the off season, is back more at his natural position, playing receiver, and is really in as good a shape as we've seen him in. Probably, at as light a weight as he's been since high school, and we wanted to be very careful bringing him back, especially with back-to-back knee injuries. But he really went through a thorough recovery process, and I think that makes him more confident going out there and playing, and it's showing.
We're talking with Capital head coach Chad Rokashevsky here on the Crusaders pregame show, getting you set for homecoming between John Carroll and Capital. Let's go over to the defensive side now, Coach. 4 games into the season, big picture. How do you feel about how your defense has performed so far this year?
I think at many points in times they've played well enough for us to win. And obviously the other phases of the game have to do their part as well, and that's where we've come up short. But in a lot of cases, they have been getting takeaways. They've been getting 3 and outs. They've been doing a lot of things. We've got to eliminate the big plays. That's what's hurt us. That's something we chart every game. And there's been too many explosive plays that have gone for touchdowns. But by and large, they have played some pretty decent football this year that would give us a chance to win if all of our other phases were executing correctly.
It's always interesting to see which names emerge, which young players start to grab up starting spots. Linebacker Nick Bosonic, here's a local kid, played his high school football at Upper Arlington, one of the powerhouses here in Central Ohio, and he's really emerged as one of your starting linebackers. Tell me more about him.
Yeah, Nick was a guy we were excited to get in the recruiting process, and we knew we were going to, as we learned midsummer, we were going to end up missing some guys that we thought were going to be returners for us. And we as a staff tried to evaluate as best as we could, and with the short preseason, we were going to have what incoming players might be able to fill in that gap. And he was one that kind of got identified based off high school film, but you never know until you coach him up in your systems and with your schemes. And he took to it very well, and that was exciting to see. And I think he continues to get better each week as he gets more comfortable playing at the college level, playing in the new schemes. But the way he plays, he just plays so hard from snap to whistle, and that's what we've been stressing with our guys is, if we can be relentless with our effort, from snap to whistle, then things will generally work out well for us. We'll get things coached up. We'll make sure they know exactly what they're supposed to do when we watch the film. But the guy's got to bring the going hard from snap to whistle, and he's a guy that definitely brings that from the get-go.
Talking with Capital head coach Chad Rogaszewski here on the Crusaders pregame show. Let's talk about your opponent today, John Carroll, 3-1 overall, 2-1 within conference play. Coach, it always seems like the Blue Streaks, they got a top-notch defense year in, year out. What have you noticed about this year's team?
That they're like they've been year in and year out. They're going to have a very solid running game when they want to run the ball. They're working very hard and getting a lot better at being more multiple offensively. So you'll see them in a variety of personnel groups and offensive sets. From the two-back run game that they're great at, and then they'll be an empty the next play. So you kind of see that offense diversifying and becoming more difficult to defend. Their defense all starts up front, and they have some really talented defensive linemen. Their linebackers are physical, athletic players, and their defensive backfield is very good. So it is a typical John Carroll team. It is what we've seen in the past, and we've got to be up for that challenge today.
Jake Floria, their quarterback, has had some good moments. He really hasn't been asked to put up big passing numbers so far this year for John Carroll. What stands out about him?
I think he manages the game well. I think you see him developing and growing as a passer. It is, along with their offense, I think you see his growth and development into being more diverse in what they do, and building off a good sound running game into doing some quarterback run stuff, into doing some spread out passing game stuff, and I think as he progresses, their offense will continue to progress in doing those more multiple things.
Coach, finally, it's homecoming. There's always a lot of pomp and circumstance when it comes to homecoming here at Capital. You've been here for a while now. What's it like, homecoming here at Capital?
Well, it's exciting to have a buzz around campus. There's a lot of things going on. We're inducting our athletic department Hall of Fame members. They'll be recognized during the game and then tonight at the banquet. So that's always an exciting thing. I know we've got our Capital Football Association doing a big tailgate event out there today. So just getting a chance to see people from Capital's history, people that you see their pictures on the wall around here, you hear stories about them, just to be able to have them back on campus in person is always very special.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you very much, and good luck against John Carroll.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Chad Rogaszewski, join us here on the Crusaders pregame show. We'll have more of the pregame show coming up in just a moment. Welcome back to the Crusaders pregame. Welcome back to Burnlore Stadium. We are getting closer and closer to kickoff between John Carroll and Capital. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I am Charlie Daniels. Let's now go ahead and preview Capital. This is brought to you by Planks Cafe and Pizzeria. Well, Tom, another frustrating loss for Capital last week as they fell to Baldwin Wallace by a final of 37-7. But if you do want to take some positives out of that game, first off, they had a quarterback that played the entire game in Mitchell Mayshock, who had some good moments, but you also had a couple of guys that were able to emerge as big-time receiving threats. We know about Cam Lee. We know about what he brings to the table from an athletic standpoint, but what about the game from Mike Smith?
He had a good game. I think him being targeted more is going to help incorporate a lot of different threats to this offense. We talked about Cam Lee being a big threat last couple weeks, but Mike Smith emerging, being a guy that Mayshock can throw to. And I got to give Mayshock some credit. He's making baby steps. He's doing a good job of fitting into this offense. It's his first year kind of learning the system, and I think Mike Smith's going to be that hot hand for him through these next few games.
Hard to believe that Mike Smith, when he first came to the Capital program, he had transferred from Ohio Dominican at the Division II level. Smith was initially playing as a defensive back before injuries curtailed that plan, and then when they got to this season, they decided to switch him back over to wide receivers because there was more of a need for him to play at that position due to the depth at that position. Had a good game against Baldwin Wallace. Hopefully Mike Smith can produce here against John Carroll this weekend. Cam Lee also had himself a good game with 6 catches for 75 yards and a score. Hopefully he can build upon that performance against the Blue Streaks as well. That's offense. Now we switch over to the defensive side of things for Capital. And one of the guys, Tom, that I talked with Coach Rogaszewski about was the emergence of Nick Bosonic. Here's a kid that grew up right down the road, played his high school ball at Upper Arlington here in Columbus. Now he is a freshman linebacker here at Capital. He is already second on the team in total tackles. This guy flies around the field.
Yeah, Bosonic's he's basically a mini Cole Carter. He's definitely got that grit to be able to go out and hit at one person every single play. Him and Cole Carter are going to be the identity of that defense, and they need to be able to pump up the rest of the secondary and even the guys up front to give JCU a little bit of trouble today.
What about the defensive line for Capital in particular, Tom? How big of a role are they going to need to play in this game against John Carroll?
They're going to need to try to find a way to stop the run because we talked about it earlier. John Carroll is a run-first, pass-second team. And if they're able to stop the run and hold Michael Canganelli out of the secondary and getting big yardage plays, averaging 5-6 yards a carry, I think they'll be all right. So they figure that out. They do a good job of pass rushing and keeping Canganelli out of the secondary. They'll do all right.
Let's now go ahead and preview John Carroll. This is brought to you by the Capital Army ROTC. All right, well, we've talked about this at the top of the pregame show, Tom, and that this John Carroll team is perfectly content with playing strong defense and running the football. Turns out that John Carroll is dead last in the OAC when it comes to passing yards, but when you have a strong defense and that run game that is supported by their junior running back, Michael Canganelli, the junior out of Mayfield Village, Ohio, you don't really need a passing game all that much.
Not at all. He's got 250 yards this year, rushing for 4 TDs. And he's averaging about 14 carries per game, so we're going to see a lot of Canganelli tonight. Jake Floria, I think he's going to play a huge part in this as well, as he's got a little over 700 yards passing on the season. These guys are making up their offense. That's a 1-2 punch, and Capital's going to need to find to stop those two guys or else it could get out of hand. But I think Capital's going to do a good job tonight of fighting back against this Blue Streak team.
John Carroll is the type of team that doesn't necessarily light it up from a scoreboard standpoint. They only scored 14 points against a winless Otterbein team a couple of weeks ago, Tom. So I would imagine if you are Capital playing against a John Carroll team that, like I said, is not going to light it up from a scoreboard standpoint, that's not going to move the ball up and down the field like what we saw against Marietta a couple of weeks ago, what Baldwin Wallace was able to do last week, that should work in Capital's favor. But at the same time, I think time of possession and turnovers in particular, that's really going to tell the tale in today's game.
Definitely. And going back to talking about how they only scored 14 points on Otterbein, looking back at the stats, Flory was only 10 of 16 throwing, but he threw for 200 yards and a touchdown. So you can see where big plays got out of hand, and Otterbein definitely gave up some big yardage plays to let those 2 touchdowns come about. But you got to be able to eliminate the time of possession for this JCU team, because if they're going to have the ball on the ground, they're going to have the ball for a while. So we're going to see what they can do.
By the way, major injury note for Capital today. They're going to be without their top wide receiver, David Barnett. Barnett suffering a knee injury in the game last week against Baldwin Wallace. He is officially out. Chad Davis is going to start in his place at wide receiver. By the way, speaking of stars, let's go ahead and get you the starting lineups for both teams. First, for the visiting Blue Streaks of John Carroll. We've already talked about Jake Floria, the junior from Mentor, Ohio. He's going to be the starting quarterback for John Carroll today. Michael Canganelli, the junior from Mayfield Village, Ohio, will start at running back. Devin Limerick, the sophomore from Akron, will also see some time at running back for the Blue Streaks. The wide receivers for John Carroll, Evan Nugent, Joey Tarak, and Keyshawn Coleman. The left tackle is Will McGinnis. The left guard is John Kidner. The center is Nick Harradine. The right guard is Anthony Amata. And the right tackle is Blake Harradine. The tight end is Will Mercurio. And the kicker is Anthony Lupo. He is the main kicker for John Carroll. Defensively for the Blue Streaks, Defensive end is Cal Reynolds. The defensive tackles are Tyler Federick and Connor Bogart, who was a preseason All-American for John Carroll. Harrison Richardson is the other defensive end for the Blue Streaks. The linebackers are Brian Robinson, Chad Stolniker, and Tyshawn Jones. The cornerbacks are Ariel Jimenez and Cole Griffin, and the safeties are R.J. Rosario and Nate Leopold. The punter for John Carroll is Andy Hahn. Now the starting lineup for Capital. At quarterback will be the 6'4" junior from Orlando, Florida, Mitchell Mayshawk. At running back will be Evan Butler. The H-back is Clinton Kitchen. The wide receivers, Wyatt Pertusit and Chad Davis. The left tackle is Joshua McSweeney. The left guard will be Nick Russell. At center will be Bryce Siegfried. Kevin Cuervo is out today. Garrett Anderson will start at right guard. Jake Fry will start at right tackle, and the tight end will be Cam Lee. The defensive end will be Matthew Lawful. The defensive tackles, Damian Loya and Jack Blaisdell, are the defensive tackles. The other defensive end will be Des Turkson. The linebackers, the freshman Nick Bosonic, who we talked about in the pregame show, freshman from Upper Arlington, Ohio, will be at weak side linebacker. The middle linebacker will be Blade McCulley, and Cole Carter will be in that star linebacker position. The cornerbacks are Devin Brown and Avery Sylvester, and the safeties are Tanner Wollenberg and Jake Elsiad. The kicker will be Blake Middleton. The punter is Wyatt Pertusit. Well, both teams are on the field right now. John Carroll, navy blue trousers, white jerseys with navy blue numbers, and the golden domes, the golden helmets atop their heads. Capital, meanwhile, customary purple jerseys with white numbers, white trousers with a purple streak down the side of the pants, and the white helmets with the purple line going down the middle of the helmets with the Crusader logo on either side as well. What a beautiful fall day it is here in Bexley. The high is expected to be 57. Plenty of sunshine to go around for the folks here at Burnlor Stadium. Again, welcome to this presentation of Crusaders football here at athletics.capital.edu. Happy homecoming to all of you. Charlie Danis, Tom Cavanaugh will be bringing the action here today from Promote Field at Burnlor Stadium. Capital still looking for its first win of the season. John Carroll, meanwhile, looking to improve to 4-1 overall and 3-1 within conference play. This is a series that John Carroll has traditionally dominated. They hold a 23-9-1 advantage over Capital. They've won the last 9 matchups. The last time Capital defeated the Blue Streaks in football, got to go all the way back to 2009 when the Crusaders were able to upend the Blue Streaks that time by a final of 28-20. Anthony Lupo will kick things off for John Carroll, and we are underway here in Bexley. This is a very short kick, and it's going to rattle out of bounds around the 22-yard line. So right off the bat, Tom, Capital will have great field position to begin the ball game.
And these first couple minutes are really going to tell the story of tonight's game. Is Capital going to be able to punch the Blue Streaks in the mouth to start? They're going to get the ball at the 40-yard line, which is a good starting point, but we got to see a lot of confidence and intensity from Mayshawk in this offense in this opening drive.
By the way, our head referee today will be Wes Davis, so we'll be hearing from him whenever a penalty is called in this game or anything else important will be taking place on the field. So it'll be 1st and 10 at the 35-yard line for Capital. Mitchell Mayshawk, junior out of Orlando, Florida, Cocoa Beach High School product. He is in the gun, and it's a play fake, a pass, and it is caught for a first down out near midfield. Nice hookup that time from Mayshawk to one of his wide receivers. Dunlop with the reception, and that is a first down for the Crusaders.
That was a good job by Dunlop creating space, getting his back to the DB, and making that grab. Mayshawk, nice pass on the backside shoulder.
Actually, that was Mike Smith, with the reception. The sophomore from Grove City, Ohio. So now it's 1st and 10 near midfield. And now it's a handoff, and that run play is not going to go anywhere as Evan Butler was stopped for a 1-yard loss. And boy, we keep on harping on this, Tom, but the run game has really got to improve for Capital going forward. Otherwise, that puts a lot of pressure on whoever plays quarterback for Capital.
Exactly, Charlie. And I like Rogaszewski's scheme, bringing Mike Smith in motion there, trying to draw the secondary over, but they sniffed it out immediately. And Evan Butler's been continuing his struggles of late.
So now it'll be 2nd and 11 from the Capital 48-yard line. Mayshawk still in the gun with 4 wide receivers, 3 to the near side. And the give once again is to Butler, and Butler is bottled up There'll be a 2-yard loss this time on the play as he's eventually ridden down on the play. Looks like by Harrison Richardson, the 5'9" junior defensive end from Chardon, Ohio. This John Carroll team really likes to recruit from the Northeast Corridor, Cleveland, Akron, Canton, some really strong high school products in that part of the state, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So now it's 3rd and 13 for Capital from its own 47-yard line. Mayshock back to pass, looking, throwing, and it is caught. It is right at the marker as well, so that will be enough for a first down. Nice catch that time by Cam Lee, the 6'4" sophomore from Piqua, Ohio. He got sandwiched in between 2 John Carroll defenders, but still was able to make the catch. First down, Crusaders.
Charlie, looking at this drive so far, we've seen 2 pass plays and 2 run plays. Both run plays have gone for either none or negative yardage, and both pass plays have been for first downs. I think that's going to tell the story for Capital's offense going forward.
1st and 10, Capital at the John Carroll 41-yard line. Mayshock will go empty, and now he'll welcome Pertusa into the backfield. He will fake it to Pertusa, and Mayshock will run forward. Takes a little bit of a bump right there at the John Carroll 38-yard line before he is eventually taken down on the play by Connor Borgard, senior defensive tackle from Cleveland, Ohio. Attended Benedictine High School. He was a Bengal. That is the same high school that a guy by the name of Chuck Noll attended before he became a famous head coach, I hear, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2nd and 7 after the gain of 3 by Mayshock. Ball spotted at the John Carroll 38-yard line. Mayshock now checking the play, perhaps changing the play as he goes back and forth along his offensive line. It's a 5-wide set here for Mayshock, the Florida native. Mayshock takes the snap, back to throw. Quick hitter, and Smith makes the catch as he will be taken down at the John Carroll 36-yard line. So that will only be about a gain of 2 on the play, as it looks like Harrison Richardson and Cal Reynolds was able to combine on the tackle for John Carroll, setting up an important 3rd down here for Capital offensively.
And another extremely imperative piece of Capital's offense is their O-line. And I think so far on pass rush, they've done a nice job of holding this D-line off. They've done a nice job of giving Mayshock time to make a play. I like that check down pass across the middle to Smith.
So now it's 3rd and 5. Capital at the John Carroll 36-yard line. 11 and a half to play here in the first quarter. Still no score between the Crusaders and the Blue Streaks. Mayshock back to pass. Pass is caught by Butler, but he'll be about a yard short. That was a very nice open field tackle that time by Nate Leopold. So now decision time for Chad Rogaszewski's crew. Seems a little bit too far for a field goal, but too close for a punt. And it looks like Capital will go with a quick count here as Mayshock quickly goes under center. Looks like they're going to try to get John Carroll with the hard count. Now Mayshock will stand up and seek some guidance from the Capital offensive sideline that time. It's a 4th and 2 from the John Carroll 33-yard line. So now Mayshock, he's changing up the play. He'll now go to the shotgun. 3 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side, and now a timeout is going to be taken by Capital. Well, you can't really blame Capital, Tom, for trying to draw John Carroll off sides, but John Carroll is pretty well versed in discipline up there at John Carroll. So now that leads to the timeout. What does Capital do from here?
4th and 2, I still say they go for it. They've had a nice drive put together so far. Not a lot of big yardage plays, but still churning out first downs, doing a great job. Mayshock making some nice passes, and his receivers making a lot of nice catches, picking up big yardage. 4th and 2, I don't know. I looked at the setup from the defense there, and Cam Lee, I mean, a nice little drop-down screen for him could get 2 to 3 yards there. I saw it open for a second, but they called the timeout. I'm not 100% sure what they might do here, but I'd say for sure go for it.
Well, no matter what happens on the next play, you got to admit the offensive line is doing a nice job of protecting Mayshock. He looks really comfortable back there in the pocket.
A lot more comfortable than he has before in other games. When I was here from the Marietta game, he would have 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds to be able to get a play off before he was under duress. So kudos to the O-line so far in tonight's contest.
So now both teams back onto the field, and it looks as though the Capital will indeed be going for it here. So yet again, it's 4th and 2. Capital at the John Carroll 33-yard line, trying to keep this drive going. 10:42 remaining in the first quarter. No score between the Crusaders and the Blue Streaks. 4 wide receivers for Mayshock. Mayshock will take the snap. Back to throw, looking, and it is incomplete, but a flag is going to be thrown. The intended target for Capital was Cam Lee, but there was a John Carroll defender on his back before he was able to properly catch the ball. I think they're going to get John Carroll for pass interference right here, thereby keeping this drive alive.
Yep, Cam Lee, little small 2 or 3 yard slant across the middle. He did get hit by the DB.
Let's hear from Wes Davis.
On the defense, number 29. It's a spot foul. Foul carries an automatic first down.
So there you go. Normally we are accustomed to seeing a very disciplined John Carroll defense, but not that time on a crucial 4th down, and it keeps the drive going for Capital offensively. So now Mayshock will set up in the shotgun. It is a 1st and 10. Capital at John Carroll's 29-yard line. Mayshock in the gun, Evan Butler on his right hip. He'll have 2 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side. Now Butler goes from right hip to left hip in the shotgun. Mayshock takes a snap. It's a play fake. A throw. It's picked off. A flag was thrown. Going the other way for John Carroll. All the way down to the 10-yard line. Mayshock had 2 interceptions last week against Baldwin Wallace, and he throws a pick right there, but hold on, we're going to have to check the flag. That was a long interception return by number 29, Tyshawn Jones, senior out of Euclid.
Tyshawn Jones sat there at about the 30-yard line and did not move for that entire play. He sat there in coverage.
5 in the backfield. That penalty is declined. The result of the play.
So it turns out that the penalty went against Capital for having too many men in the backfield, and yet again, turnovers. They have been a real big problem for Capital here in 2019, and they continue to stub their toe with those turnovers. So after this particular turnover, Capital goes from a promising offensive drive to giving John Carroll great field position. The ball is spotted at Capital's 9-yard line, 1st and goal for the Blue Streaks. It'll be handed off to Caganelli as he'll try to go around right end. He'll take it inside the 10 to about the 7-yard line, so that'll only be about a gain of 2 on the play for Michael Caganelli, 5'10", 195-pound junior running back from Mayfield Village, Ohio.
Going back to that turnover, Charlie, there's some passes that, I mean, when you look into the coverage, the passes aren't there, and sometimes you just got to recognize that and not throw to that guy because Lee was open for a split second.
So now, 2nd down, the give once again to Caganelli, and he will get into the end zone. Touchdown, John Carroll. Well, that was quick. 2 plays after the long interception return by linebacker Tyshawn Jones. John Carroll is able to punch it in from 7 yards out thanks to the churning legs of junior running back Michael Caganelli. And just like that, John Carroll has a 6-0 lead.
What a momentum swing, too. Capital was down at the 30-yard line driving after that big pass interference call. They looked like they could get into the red zone, but just did not come up with it. Made a bad pass, and 7-0 Blue Streaks.
The kick is up, and it is good by Anthony Lupo. So with the extra point, John Carroll leads Capital 7-0 with 9:49 remaining here in the 1st quarter. You are listening to Capital Football here on athletics.capital.edu. $9:49 remaining in the 1st quarter. It is John Carroll 7, Capital nothing. A 7-yard touchdown run by Michael Caganelli is the difference so far. Caganelli actually from 8 yards out. Drive took a grand total of 36 seconds because the Blue Streaks were set up beautifully off of an interception return by Tyshawn Jones, senior linebacker for John Carroll. So now let's see what Capital can do here offensively. Boy, Tom, that first offensive drive for Capital was looking really good. They got a key first down off of a penalty defensively by John Carroll. Looked as though that they were going to be moving forward, but then the interception by Jones happened. So now we're just going to have to see how Capital plans to recover here or plans to respond here, but a very disappointing ending to that last offensive drive.
And I'd go back to the same exact offensive scheme that they had going. Meshack just needs to make better decisions with the football in his hands. They drove down the field making nice plays. Guys were getting open. We're creating space. The run game right now I don't think is going to work 100% to start, though, because John Carroll's just been all over it. And Rogaszewski recognized that, and we've seen countless pass plays after those 2 run plays that were swallowed up at the line.
So after the touchback, Capital will begin this drive at their own 25-yard line, trailing John Carroll 7-0 with 9:49 remaining here in the first quarter. An empty setback here for Meshack. Meshack with 3 receivers to his right. He will now throw, and that is caught at the 30-yard line. Taking it to the 35 is Wyatt Pertusa. Kind of an awkward-looking throw right there from Meshack as he threw it off his back foot. But, hey, it works. First down, Crusaders.
Pertusa found a way to get open, and he picked up a couple extra yards with it.
So it'll now be 1st and 10 for Capital at their own 34-yard line. Actually, 2nd and 1, excuse me. First down marker at the 35. So Meshack, once again, will be in the shotgun. 3 wide receivers to his left, 1 to his right, that being Cam Lee. And right behind him is his tailback, Evan Butler. The give is to Butler. And Butler is stacked up and driven back to the 33-yard line. Boy, it has been tough sledding for Evan Butler so far in this game against John Carroll, as the tackle is eventually made by Connor Bogard yet again for the Blue Streaks.
That Blue Streak front 4 is letting nothing by them whatsoever. Evan Butler tries to get through there, trying to find a hole that his O-line's trying to create. It just isn't there. It hasn't been there all day.
So now it's 3rd and 2 for Capital from their own 33-yard line. Mike Smith split out wide to the right along with Partuzit. And then 3 other receivers up top near the John Carroll sideline, the far side of the field. Meshack, quick throw. It's intercepted again. His 2nd interception of the day. Another turnover for Capital. And this time, making the play is Nate Leopold, sophomore safety from Murraysville, Pennsylvania. But a flag was thrown at the 40-yard line. They're pointing in the direction of the John Carroll defense. Let's see what this penalty is going to be about. As it stands right now, another interception. Here's the call from Wes Davis.
Prior to the interception, holding defense number 30. 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
So Capital catches a break right there. Instead of it being an interception by Nate Leopold, the penalty negates that interception, and this drive keeps going for Capital. But boy, a couple of shaky throws from Meshack after he gets off to the good start. Saw the interception by linebacker Tyshawn Jones, and nearly another turnover right there.
Holding or not on that play, that's 3 passes and 2 interceptions. Another quick check down pass, a quick slant that he just threw right into the arms of an outside linebacker. That cannot happen. He cannot stare down his receivers before he's ready to throw the ball.
Capital 1st and 10 at their own 40-yard line. Pertusa just put in motion. They will fake it to Pertusa. They'll give it to Butler. And Butler with his first productive run of the day as he takes it all the way up to the Capital 44-yard line. So that will be a gain of 4 on the play for the senior running back from the gem city of Dayton, Ohio. Went to Dayton Christian High School back during his prep days, did Butler. And now Butler will check out. And checking in for Capital will be Dylan Schoonover, the junior from Grove City, Ohio. So Schoonover in this game for Capital. 2nd and 6 for the Crusaders from their own 44-yard line as we are about to tick under 7.5 to play. We're in the first quarter. John Carroll leading Capital 7-0 off of a touchdown run by Michael Caganelli. Meshack takes the snap, back to throw, quick throw. And is that ball caught? Yes, it is. Another impressive catch by Mike Smith, Grove City, Ohio product. Played his high school ball for the Upper Arlington Golden Bears here in Central Ohio. And now a 3rd and short situation for Capital. Looks like they're going to go with a little bit of tempo here. Meshack will hand off, and Schoonover is just buried. There's no other way to put it. Never had a chance on that run play as he is taken down at the Capital 46-yard line.
The Crusader rush blocking right now is not even close to where it needs to be. We've had one productive run from Evan Butler, but everything else has either been for negative yardage or stopped at the line. They need to find a way to block these front four guys and whoever's blitzing from the outside and get some yardage on the run. I mean, they're doing a fine job getting pass plays off, but got to do a better job on the O-line.
So now Wyatt Pertussit will come on to punt the football away for Capital. Back to receive the punt is the man who should have an interception, but it was taken away because of a penalty, that being Nate Leopold. Leopold at the 20. He will fair catch it at about the 24-yard line or so. So John Carroll will have decent field position after that catch made by Leopold. Now, it is homecoming. It's also a very special weekend for the athletic department here at Capital as they welcome in a new class into the Athletic Hall of Fame. Jeff Blam, former standout for the men's soccer team. Jesse Hampson, former standout for the women's volleyball team. Nate Stahl, who was a really good player for the men's basketball team, also a part of the induction ceremonies, along with Sarah Heitkamp of women's basketball and Nathan Thornhill of the track and field team. So John Carroll now offensively on the field. Floria flushed out, throws it deep. It is incomplete. And on the play defensively was Avery Sylvester. The intended target for John Carroll was Keyshawn Coleman, sophomore wideout out of Youngstown, Ohio. 6:05 left to play in the first quarter. John Carroll 7, Capital nothing. Floria in the shotgun with two receivers to the near side, one to the far side. Caganelli is running back. They will give to Caganelli. Caganelli to the 25, to the 30, and he will burrow his way to the 36-yard line. That will be enough for John Carroll first down. Tough running by the junior from Mayfield Village, Ohio.
And the run blocking from JCU so far has been perfect. Caganelli's getting every single hole that he wants, and he picks and chooses them, and he's getting big yardage.
First and 10, John Carroll at their own 36-yard line. Florio will once again hand to Caganelli on a sweep play, and Caganelli with some more good yardage as he takes it up to the Capital 41-yard line. Actually making the tackle was junior defensive back Devin Brown. He hails from Solon, Ohio. Interesting note on John Carroll's offensive line in that their right tackle, Blake Harradine, is the only returning starter on that O-line for John Carroll. Everybody else in their first year starting on that O-line for the Blue Streaks. 2nd and 5. John Carroll at their own 41-yard line. Throw over the middle. It is caught, and that'll be enough for John Carroll first down, as making the play that time was Evan Nugent. He's a senior out of Rocky River, Ohio. Let's see where they spot this ball. Actually, John Carroll will be about a yard short. So an important 3rd and 1 situation here. They've got to get it to the John Carroll 46 in order for the Blue Streaks to convert. Once again, Floria up tempo. Two receivers to the near side, one to the far side. Floria takes a snap. He will hand. And this will be more than enough for a first down. Into Capital midfield. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, John Carroll. Devin Lirimick took it to the left, found a seam, cut it upfield, and John Carroll increases his lead to 13-0. Boy, he made that look easy.
Yeah, and that was all set up by the outside blocking. Everything outside those hash marks. There was 2 good blocks on some DBs. One on looked to be one of Capital's safeties. Set up perfect end around that time for 7 points.
So 1 rushing touchdown for Caganelli and 1 rushing touchdown for Devin Limerick. The running backs for John Carroll have been doing their job so far today, as the extra point by Lupo is up, and it is good. We'll step aside for a moment. 4.5 to play here in the first quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing here on athletics.capital.edu. 4:30 left to play here in the first quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. Latest scoring drive for John Carroll took all of 1 minute and 44 seconds. Devin Limerick scoring on a 55-yard rushing score. One rushing touchdown apiece for Limerick and Caganelli, the two main running backs that this Blue Streaks team like to employ in the backfield. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Daniels. This is Capital Football on Athletics Capital.edu. And boy, Tom, so far, John Carroll making it look easy offensively.
Yeah, the run game has been absolutely perfect for John Carroll so far today.
Taking it up to about the 25-yard line. That was a good return by Jake Harris, sophomore wide receiver out of Mason, Ohio. So now Capital's offense comes back onto the field for the third time.
You're going to let Mayshak try it out again.
Mayshak with a shaky start in this game. Threw an interception on his first offensive possession. Got picked off a second time, although that interception by Leopold got negated by a John Carroll penalty. So really he should have 2 turnovers, but only has 1 officially in the stat sheet. Meanwhile, a give to Schoonover, and Schoonover is able to get back to the line of scrimmage, and that's about it. The run game has not been doing a good job for Capital so far today. Both Schoonover and Evan Butler have been having a hard time finding any room to run. Mayshak has had his moments throwing the football, but again, it's kind of tough to play offense when you're constantly behind the sticks. 2nd and 10. Capital at their own 25-yard line. 3 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side. Mayshak taking the snap. Play fake. Throw. And that is complete. And boy, pass interference should have been called on that play, as Mike Smith was held for virtually the entire play, but somehow, some way, he's able to find a way to make the catch. First down, Capital. I really like what Mike Smith's been doing so far.
Yeah, and I think with David Barnett being out, I think it opens it up for a couple more guys because he is their main receiver, but with Barnett out, Mayshak's got to look to different receivers to throw to. Cam Lee was already a big option, but Mike Smith being incorporated a lot more here in this first half.
1st and 10 for Capital from their own 35-yard line. 3 receivers to the near side, to the far side. Pertusit will now join Mayshak in the backfield. And Pertusit trying to find some room, but he has none. He'll be dropped at the 31-yard line.
Mayshak held onto the ball for a little too long, which tripped up Pertusit there on the run.
Ricker Teal. Boy, what a great name for a defensive lineman. 6 foot, 220-pound freshman from London, Ohio, making the stop on the play for John Carroll. Under 3 minutes to play here in the first quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. Capital trying to get something going here offensively. 2 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side, that being Mike Smith, who's had a pretty impressive game for Capital so far with 3 catches. Mayshak back to throw, looking. He'll now check it down to Schoonover. Schoonover lost the ball, but it was recovered by Capital. Pouncing on that ball was Jake Fry.
It was a forced fumble that time from Tayshawn Jones, who had the pick earlier in the game. He'll usually be at the bottom of your screen. He's been a ball hawk all day. He's made 2 tackles and a pick so far.
So now it's 3rd and 12 for Capital from their own 32-yard line. 2:13 and counting here in the first quarter. John Carroll leading Capital 14-0. Mayshak once again in the shotgun. 2 receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Evan Butler on Mayshak's right hip in the shotgun. Mayshak takes a snap, looking, and he's going to be brought down at the 25-yard line. First sack of the day for John Carroll, making the play for the Blue Streaks. Defensive tackler Tyler Frederick, senior out of Wadsworth, Ohio.
And Frederick's got around Bryce Siegfried that time, the true freshman. O-line. Got to be able to conceal him off the side. Evan Butler did a good job grabbing the D end, but Siegfried that time let him by, and that's the drive right there.
Pertusit on the punt for Capital once again. Nate Leopold, meantime, will stand at his own 40-yard line awaiting the punt for John Carroll, who leads Capital 14-0 with 1:22 remaining here in the first quarter. Pertusit will get it away. High wobbly kick, and it'll be fair caught at about the 45-yard line for John Carroll. Well, there are only 2 other games that are going to be taking place around the OAC today. A whole bunch of teams are on bye weeks around the conference. Already got 1 game in action at the moment. Mount Union leading Wilmington 14-0 with a minute 38 remaining in the first quarter of that one. And in about 3 minutes or so, Marietta will start playing host to Heidelberg down there on the Ohio River. Meantime, our game, minute 15 remaining here in the first quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. John Carroll with a couple of scores from their running back, an 8-yard score by Michael Caganelli, and a 55-yard score thanks to Devin Limerick. Throw over the middle, and that will be incomplete, but a flag was thrown near the 50-yard line, and I kind of have a feeling that this might be pass interference against Capital. Oh, no, an eligible man downfield for John Carroll. At least that's what the signal was from our head referee, Wes Davis. So this will actually move John Carroll back a few paces as Davis confers with the John Carroll sideline. Let's get the official call now from Davis. Well, I guess there's actually no official call there. Must be having some issues with his microphone. So the ball will be placed at John Carroll's 39-yard line after the penalty. It'll be 2nd and 15. Actually make that 1st and 15. Floria, junior out of Mentor, Ohio, in the shotgun. He'll take the snap, and he will hand to Caganelli. Caganelli will try to bust through some tackles before he's eventually ridden down at the John Carroll 42-yard line. And now flags are thrown everywhere. A couple of Capital players are clapping. Looks like this might be another penalty against John Carroll. Looks like it'll be a personal foul against the Blue Streaks. Penalty will go against Evan Nugent, 6'2" senior from Rocky River, Ohio, for John Carroll.
This Blue Streak team on both sides of the ball is not being too disciplined. They got that defensive holding call that spoiled their interception.
Dead ball foul. It is 3rd down.
So now, 3rd down for John Carroll. 3rd and 27. And now, another whistle as Wes Davis has to confer with another member of his crew here. Crowd's starting to get a little restless here at Bernlohr Stadium. They just want the game to go back on. So now that we have confirmation for that, let's get back to playing football. Floria in the gun. 2 receivers to each side of the field. He'll take the snap. He'll roll to his right, trying to set up a screen. It's caught at the 25 and immediately blown up. Thrown back near the 20-yard line. The catch was made by Keyshawn Coleman, but reading that play beautifully that time was Nick Bosonic, freshman linebacker out of Upper Arlington, Ohio, a guy that we spotlighted during the pregame show.
And we talked about it earlier. He's that guy that has those Cole Carter-esque plays, makes plays in the open field, can make an open field tackle just like he did there. Nice screen. Not the best play, but it was a beautiful tackle. Good job.
3rd and forever. 3rd and 29 to be more specific, as John Carroll will set up at the 25-yard line. They got to get it to the Capital 46 in order to convert. Floria back to throw. Looking, still looking, scrambling around, and he will be taken down at the 32-yard line. Just way too much ground to cover that time. Great coverage downfield by Capital as well. Making the tackle on the play eventually was junior linebacker Malcolm Wiggins. He's a junior out of Zanesville, Ohio. And that will take us to the end of the first quarter. At the end of the first quarter is John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. This is your home for Capital Crusaders football, athletics.capital.edu. Welcome back to Burn Lawrence Stadium as we get set for second quarter action here in Bexley, Ohio. John Carroll leading Capital by a score of 14-0. Some of the members of the Capital Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2019 being announced right now. So we have a little bit of a pause in the action. The members of the Hall of Fame class: Jeff Flam, who was a four-time first-team All-OAC selection for the Capital men's soccer team between '87 and '90. Jesse Hampson, class of 2008, perhaps the most decorated volleyball player in the history of Capital women's volleyball. Nate Stahl, two-time All-American for the Capital men's basketball program. Sarah Heitkamp-Dick from 2006, great player for the Capital women's basketball team. And finally, Nathan Thornhill from the class of 2007. He was a standout for the Capital men's track and field team. A very good class, and boy, what an honor it must be, Tom, when you play at your alma mater to get inducted into your athletic Hall of Fame. That's a pretty big deal for an athlete.
Pretty prestigious honor. I'd have to agree with you. Any award like that to be remembered as one of the best to do it at your university is something special.
So Capital will get the ball here to begin the second quarter. The punter for John Carroll will be Andy Hahn. He's a sophomore from Niles, Michigan, and on to return the punt for Capital is Tanner Wollenberg. He is a sophomore from New Lexington, Ohio. He's got a good pair of wheels, so let's see if he can do something here special teams-wise for Capital. He is standing at Capital's 28-yard line. Expecting the punt here from Hahn. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. Capital looking to change their fortunes here early on in the second quarter. Hahn gets it away. And this is not a good punt. This will hit and roll out of bounds at the Capital 49-yard line. That is not what Hahn was looking for on that particular punt, but the Crusaders will definitely take it as they will get good field position to begin the second quarter.
Yes, batted at about the 50-yard line. I'd love to see Capital come out, get a couple first downs, and punch something in the end zone. At least get into the red zone. I want to see Mayshak come out, make a couple nice passes, and be smart with the football.
So Mayshak and the Capital offense will come back onto the field, starting at their own 49-yard line. 14:51 remain in the second quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. Mayshak is in the shotgun. Two receivers to his right, one to his left. Mayshak hands to Butler. Butler with a little bit of running room. He'll take it to the 50-yard line. Well, that's better than what Capital's been doing lately with the run game right there, as Butler's able to eke out a 1-yard gain. Directly at midfield stands Capital offensively. Mayshak looking in for the play. He has it. And he'll tell the rest of his offensive line as he lines up in the shotgun once again. Smith set up near side. Two other receivers up top on the far side. Butler and Schoonover flanking Mayshak. It's a play fake. Throw over the middle. Caught in the John Carroll territory across the 40 to the 38-yard line. Making the catch was Sam Pickett, sophomore wide receiver out of the Queen City of Cincinnati. Big first down right there for Capital.
That was a good read that time by Mayshak. Saw Pickett come across the middle in between the hash marks and threw a bullet right in his chest. Great pass.
Mayshak going with a little more up-tempo here as he'll once again go empty here in the gun. 5 wide receiver set, 2 to the left, 3 to the right. Now Pertusa will come in. They will give to Pertusa. Pertusa trying to run, and that play goes nowhere. That play was strung out from the beginning, and John Carroll able to eventually make the play right there. Actually, it was Jake Harris, with the run. And the play made defensively by Cal Reynolds, defensive lineman, junior out of Cleveland, Ohio. Went to powerhouse Lakewood St. Edwards. Boy, you want to talk about a good high school football program. St. Ed's. They are where it's at right up there in the Northeast Corridor. So now it is 2nd and 12 after the 2-yard loss by Pertusa. Capital at the John Carroll 38-yard line. Butler put in motion. Mayshak Quick throw, and it is almost picked off. The intended target on the play for Capital was Pertussit, but boy, that was nearly another interception for this John Carroll defense.
And I'm glad that he actually got that pass off. Chad Stallnicker was coming untouched through that secondary, and Meshock took a big hit. But that was another close call there. Meshock saw Stallnicker coming. We talked about him in the pregame. Big, heavy hitter for this Blue Streak secondary.
So now it's 3rd and long, 3rd and 12 for Capital from the John Carroll 38-yard line. As Meshock calls out the play. 2 receivers to the left, 2 receivers to the right. Butler still in there at tailback. A man is now put in motion. Meshock back to throw. Quick pass. Butler trying to break a couple tacklers across the 30. Close, but does not get the first down. He's about a yard short. Needed to get to the 26. Tackled at the 27 as R.J. Rosario made the tackle on the play for John Carroll. I don't think there's any question here. You got to go for it here if you're Capital.
No question about it. They have to go for it deep in JCU territory. A couple more yards and they'll be in the red zone. Got to go for it here, 4th and 1. It's just what play are they going to pick here to get that yardage?
Meshock once again in the pistol. 3 receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Butler right behind him. The hand is to Butler. No, it is a play fake, and it is incomplete. Cam Lee was the intended target, but Lee not able to make the catch. So Capital turns the ball over on downs right there. Looked like Lee might have been pushed a little bit, but clearly a miscommunication between Meshock and Lee.
Cam Lee did not look like he was in any position to catch that football. He was up in his defender's shoulder pads, making a block, trying to create some space, and Meshock threw it right by his ear hole. He was in no position to catch that football. You either got to run that or find a different guy to throw to.
So now Floria and the John Carroll offense takes over after the turnover on downs, and immediately a big productive run by Michael Caganelli as he steamrolls his way to the John Carroll 37-yard line. That'll be enough for a John Carroll first down.
Caganelli is so shifty and so fast, and he's a bulldozer coming through that line. He puts up a full head of steam and just barrel rolls for 5, 6, 7 yards. It's quite impressive. And he does a great job of being patient, waiting for his hole to open up to make a play.
1st and 10 for John Carroll from their own 37-yard line. 3 receivers set as Florio will once again hand to Caganelli. Caganelli with another productive run as he takes it up to the John Carroll 45-yard line. Caganelli, the main bell cow for this John Carroll offense, but Devin Limerick, he showed off his Jets earlier in this game with a 55-yard scamper that took him all the way to pay dirt. Limerick and Caganelli each with a rushing touchdown. That's what has led John Carroll to a 14-0 lead over Capital with 11:23 remaining here in the first half. Floria, meanwhile, in the shotgun. A receiver to his left, 2 to his right. Caganelli still in at tailback. This time Floria will drop back to pass. He'll look over the middle. He'll throw. It is caught. 25, 20, and eventually taken down at the 18-yard line. Keyshawn Coleman making the catch for John Carroll. Really the first big pass play that we have seen today for John Carroll.
Floria had time in the pocket, collected himself, saw him across the middle, made a beautiful pass for a big yardage play right there. Well executed.
Injured player on the field for Capital. While they attend to the injured player, we'll step aside for a moment. 11:06 remaining in the second quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. This is Capital Football on athletics.capital.edu. .06 remaining in the second quarter. John Carroll 14, Capital nothing. Blue Streaks are driving. They have it 1st and 10 at the Capital 18-yard line. Now they give us a Caganelli. 15, 10. Caganelli into the end zone. Touchdown. John Carroll. Second rushing touchdown of the day for Michael Caganelli as he continues to show why he's one of the top running backs in the Ohio Athletic Conference. John Carroll an extra point away from making this a 21-point lead.
That kid is shifty, and he has got some speed, man. He was weaving in between guys from the 15-yard line, and if you want to see where his success comes from, look at the O-line. Watch them block and the positions that they block in to give him the holes that open up. I've got to give credit to Canganelli, though. He's a quick dude that makes plays.
He has been very impressive so far here in Bexley as the extra point is banged through by Anthony Lupo. 10:53 remaining here in the second quarter. It's John Carroll 21, Capital nothing. We'll keep it right here at Burnlor Stadium. First off, thank you so much for joining us for this presentation of Capital Football here on athletics.capital.edu. I'm Charlie Danis, joined by Tom Cavanaugh. It is homecoming weekend here at Capital. Plenty of people tailgating in the parking lot today. Alumni coming through with the luncheon that was held here at the Capitol Center earlier today. Later on, they will have a dinner. They will induct the new members of the 2019 Athletic Hall of Fame. We talked about those guys a little bit earlier in the broadcast. There's just so much going on here at Capitol this weekend. Tom, kind of makes you feel proud to be a Crusader.
Yeah, it's definitely fun for this weekend. Love to see Capital come out and punch JCU in the mouth a little more, but it is a good weekend. It's fun to be Capital. It's fun to be here in Columbus on homecoming.
Scoring drive looks like this. Michael Caganelli scoring from 18 yards out on a drive that only took a minute and 21 seconds to go. I've been really impressed, Tom, with how John Carroll's offense is going about his business. You would have thought that looking at the stats that they would have been slow, methodical, taking their time offensively, but man, they've been able to score with relative ease, and they've been doing it with an up-tempo style as well, as this kick is taken at the 25, and Capital will start their offensive drive on the 25-yard line following the special teams tackle of number 9, Devin Ward.
Yeah, it really makes it hard to believe that we look back at the Otterbein game against John Carroll, and he only scored 14 points. It's hard to see after putting up 21 here in this first quarter, because another winless team like Otterbein must have had a slow day, but JCU, the only thing holding them back right now is their penalties on both sides of the ball, but it really doesn't seem to be holding them back whatsoever because Canganelli is still able to get out in open field. Even when they lose a little bit of yardage on a penalty, they're able to come up with a big play and make up for it, and Capital needs to do that same exact thing. Needed to capitalize when JCU is down.
Speaking of big plays, Crusaders, they need some big plays here offensively. Michael Smith put in motion, but it's Evan Butler with the carry as he'll take it to the 25-yard line. He'll be eventually ridden down by a host of Blue Streaks, led prominently by Tyler Frederick, the senior from Wadsworth, Ohio. He had a sack earlier in this game for John Carroll. This John Carroll defense at or near the top of every defensive statistical category here in the OAC. They held Mount Union, the world beaters of the conference, for a long, long time to only 37 points last week. If you're able to hold a great team like Mount Union to the 37 points, I think you're doing something right defensively. 2nd and 10. Capital at their own 26. The give is to Butler, and Butler will take it up the gut, and they will give him the 29-yard line. So that'll be a gain of 3 on the play for Butler, setting up another third down situation for this Capital offense.
Another third down situation for Cap, and I want to see at halftime what their conversion rate is here on third downs, because the scheme's got to change at some point, because you can't keep running that HB dive up the middle and expecting to get 5-6 yards on a first down. You got to throw the ball, and it can't just be on third down and long.
3rd and 7, Capital at their own 29-yard line. Mayshok trying to set up a screen. It's to Smith. Smith trying to break a tackle, and then the ball is loose. Are they going to give it to John Carroll? Nope, they're going to say that Smith was down, but he will still be short by about a yard or so. And I think if you're Capital right here, Tom, you got no choice but to go for it here.
I think they might give it to him.
Actually, wait, they gave him a fresh set of downs. How about that? So Capital fortuitous in a couple of instances in that, A, they did not turn the ball over on a fumble, and B, that ball bounced just enough for Capital to get a first down out of it after the recovery. So how about that for Capital? A good bounce for the Crusaders. 1st and 10, Capital now at their own 36-yard line. Mayshok with 3 receivers to his right, 1 to his left. And he will give the Schoonover. Dillon looking for some room. And a nice run by Dillon that time as he takes it across the 40 to the 42-yard line. Dillon Schoonover, one of those kids that plays real hard. His heart is fully invested in this Crusader program, and that was a very nice run by the Grove City product.
Yeah, he was coming around that left side, and his legs just didn't stop moving. That's why he got those extra 3-4 yards, because he his legs kept churning, kept getting yardage out of it. That's heart of a kid that wants to play some football.
2nd and 4. Capital at their own 40-yard line, or 42, excuse me. Give us a Schoonover once again. Schoonover just trying to put his head down. And, boy, some more tough running as he'll take it up to the Capital 45-yard line. Capital now only a yard away from picking up another first down. Schoonover building some momentum with this run game all of a sudden.
He's having a little more success than Evan Butler has so far in this first half. But, I mean, if it works right now, keep going with it. Give him a couple more carries, see what he can do. But on a 3rd and short, 3rd and 4, I want to toss this one.
We'll see what Capital will do here offensively on this 3rd and 1 from their own 45-yard line. Mayshock will give the Schoonover, and Dillon lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage, if that. That was just great penetration up front by John Carroll that time. As making the play defensively was Tyler Frederick. Boy, we've been calling his name in bunches. And now the punt team will come on for Capital.
There's a difference between being able to pass block and to run block, and Capital's doing a great job at pass blocking so far tonight, but run blocking is something they really need to harp on in practice going on this next week, or even coming into the second half, because they're getting practically nothing from that run game.
The kick is up, and, oh boy, not a lot of distance on this punt. This will rattle out of bounds near the John Carroll 38-yard line, so not one of the better punts for Wyatt Pertusit, as John Carroll will get good field position coming up on this offensive drive. 6:51 remaining here in the second quarter. John Carroll 21, Capital nothing. We will pause briefly here on athletics.capital.edu. .651 remain here in the second quarter. John Carroll 21, Capital nothing. Floria with 3 receivers to his right and 1 to his left. His tailback, Michael Caganelli, who already has a couple of rushing scores on the afternoon. Floria will look to the John Carroll sideline for some guidance. Now he has the play in mind. Floria takes the snap. It's a play fake. Looking downfield. Everybody's covered. Then a receiver open at the 45. It's a nice catch made by Evan Nugent, the 6'2", 215-pound senior from Rocky River, Ohio, as he will pick up enough yardage for a John Carroll first down. Nice job of Floria of going over his options, but ultimately finding Nugent over the middle.
Yeah, that's a professional move right there. Not trying to rush a pass, but finding the one that's open, even if it's for short yardage, and he picked up more for the first down.
1st and 10 for John Carroll, their own 49. Caganelli trying to find some room. He'll shed a tackler, but he will eventually be taken down by senior defensive back Avery Sylvester at the Capital 49-yard line. Sylvester, a senior out of Normal, Illinois, originally went to Iowa Wesleyan. And for those of you who are interested in reading sports books, there's a great book called The Last Pass, where it talks about how the air raid offense was able to originate at Iowa Wesleyan under that head coach, Hal Mumme. Great book. 2nd and 6. John Carroll at Capital's 47. The give is to Limerick once again, and Limerick is going to be bottled up and stopped at the Capital 41-yard line. And so that'll be a gain of 6 on the play. Very close to a John Carroll first down, but they're going to say 3rd and maybe a couple feet or so. They're officially now calling it a 3rd and 1 situation.
Surprised they're not going to put Caganelli right on him to run this in for a 1-yarder.
Floria in the gun. 2 receivers to the right. Man put in motion. Option play. Floria will run. Now the ball is loose at midfield, and it's a fumble recovery for Capital. Floria inexplicably lost control of the ball, and Avery Sylvester pounces on it for Capital defensively. Boy, I don't know what Florio was thinking on that play right there. Had a guy on the outside, he could have pitched it, but for some odd reason just dropped the ball.
So they ran that play on the opposite side a play ago and picked up a couple yards, but he had Canganelli trailing, but he just held on to the ball for too long. So when he wanted to pitch it back, he was already within 2 defenders, and they got a hand on it, and that's what happens. That's a bad turnover that cannot happen. You either got to toss that a little earlier, or you just got to take it yourself and grab the first down. He had the first down if he were to hold on to the football.
So now Capital and John Carroll territory. Let's see if they can take this drive and build a little bit of momentum heading into the second half. Another strong run by Dylan Schoonover as he takes it across the 45 to the John Carroll 43-yard line. Another good pickup for Dylan Schoonover, who continues to do good work at that tailback position.
And it's definitely a huge pick-me-up for this Capital just team as a whole, offense and defense. Getting a nice turnover like that, huge pick-me-up on the defensive side, and this offense has good field position. Let's see what they can do with it.
2nd and 6. Capital at the John Carroll 43-yard line. Give us to Butler. Butler will bust through as he'll take it to the 40-yard line. So that'll be a gain of 3 on the play for Evan Butler. Score update for you, by the way. Looks like Mount Union is pulling away from Wilmington. They lead the Quakers 33-0 with 6:57 to go in the second quarter. Another game involving Heidelberg and Marietta. We will have a score update for you for that game in just a moment. In the meantime, 3rd and 3. Capital at John Carroll's 40-yard line. Looking to string together something here. Heidelberg actually leading Marietta 14-0 with 7:38 remaining in the first quarter of their game. Mayshak, meanwhile, in the shotgun. Back to pass. Looking, trying to evade the rush. Can't get away from it. He will be eventually taken down by number 90, Jack Burton, 6'1" sophomore out of the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So now it's 4th down for Capital. And for right now, the offense remains on the field. Setting up a 4th and 6 from the Capital 43-yard line, and it looks as though that Capital will simply play field position and punt the football away there. Disappointing that Capital wasn't able to take advantage of that John Carroll turnover after the fumble.
And that's what you need to do. After getting a turnover like that deep in enemy territory, you need to be able to come up with a couple first downs, try to score some way, somehow.
High wobbly kick by Pertussit. And Leopold will stay away from this as this will go out of bounds at the 10-yard line of John Carroll. That is where they will be taking over. Coming up, we will have the Rusty Bucket halftime show. We will take a look at the stats from the first half. We will also examine some scores from Division III as well as Division I. There might be a big upset brewing between the hedges, I'm just saying, down south. We will get you the details on that coming up during the Rusty Bucket halftime show. 2:47, meanwhile, remaining in the first half of this game. John Carroll 21, Capital nothing. All 3 of John Carroll's scores are of the rushing variety. 2 rushing touchdowns by Michael Caganelli and a rushing score by his tailback teammate, Devin Limerick. So now Floria will begin in the gun from John Carroll's 10-yard line. Floria will give to Caganelli. Caganelli is going to be ridden down around the 11-yard line. He got met by a host of Crusaders that time defensively, including Blade McCullia, starting middle linebacker. McCullia Jr. out of Ostrander, Ohio. Caleb Dade also combining with McCullia on that stop. Only a gain of 2 on the play for Caganelli. 2nd and 8, John Carroll at their own 12-yard line. Floria is in the gun. A receiver to each side of the field. A loaded backfield. As they will give to the up man to the 21-yard line. Goes, let's see here, that would be number 13. Actually, 33, Zachary Barther. Barther, a 5'10" sophomore out of Independence, Ohio. Near Parma. Went to Parma Padua Franciscan High School. Boy, that's a mouthful. So that's a 1st and 10 for John Carroll at their own 21-yard line. Minute 45 remain here in the second quarter. John Carroll not exactly running up tempo here as Caganelli to the 30, 35, 40, out towards the 45-yard line. Boy, Caganelli, shifty, strong, athletic. This kid's got it all.
He's able to break a couple tackles there, get some extra yardage. If he would have cut it to the outside, I think he would have had some more, but he cut it in.
Caganelli, meanwhile, will get another carry. 45, he'll reverse field to midfield. 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, cuts back inside. 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Michael Caganelli making it look real impressive right there on that touchdown run. Give him a hat trick, his third rushing touchdown of the day for the 5'10 junior from Mayfield Village, Ohio. Have a day, Caganelli.
It's his third of the half, Charlie. This guy was able to run to the right side of the line, stop, see that there was no hole, and then run to the other opposite side, get a few blocks, and run 55 yards for a touchdown. That's something special, man. We just got done talking about it, but that play right there just sealed the deal.
Anthony Lupo on for the extra point. Kick is up, and it is good. A minute 17 remaining here in the second quarter. John Carroll, 28, Capital, nothing. Well, partner, we knew that John Carroll would be using that run game a lot today, and boy, has it been effective for the Blue Streaks.
Yeah, all 4 touchdowns so far today have been rushing, and 3 of them have come from Caganelli, and it's just simple runs up the gut that he is creating on. The O-line's doing a great job of giving him space, giving him holes to make plays on, and he's taking advantage of it. And Capital just is not able to respond and take him down. He is too fast for a lot of our guys, and you can see it shows because it is 28-0 with a $1:17 left to go here in the first half.
Drive summary for Capital, or for John Carroll, excuse me, a minute 30. 1 minute and 30 seconds is all it took for John Carroll to get that score, culminating with a 55-yard rushing touchdown by Michael Caganelli, his third rushing touchdown of the day so far, and the first half is still not over just yet. So Capital will get the ball back here. They have 2 timeouts remaining, and hopefully Capital can piece something together. If not score, if nothing else, try to give themselves momentum heading into the second half. It is John Carroll who will receive the ball first to begin the second half. Lupo will kick it away. Pertusa will take it at the 10, 15, 20, 25. Pertusa spinning out of a tackle, but then he is ridden down at the 29-yard line. Making the tackle on the play for John Carroll was Alec Robustelli, 5'9" sophomore out of Mokina, Illinois. Jake Harris, excuse me, with the return. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Capital at their own 30-yard line. Minute 8 remaining here in the second quarter. John Carroll 28, Capital nothing. Mayshok in the gun. He will hand to Michael Smith. And Mike Smith will take it across the 30 to about the 32-yard line. That'll only be a gain of 2 on the play for the former Upper Arlington product. Played his college ball initially at Division II Ohio Dominican here in Central Ohio before eventually transferring to Capital. And Capital has had some success in recent years with former Ohio Dominican players, most recently with quarterback Thomas Wibbler and wide receiver Dar Stanford, who formed quite the duo here in Bexley for a number of years.
Yes, they did.
It was actually a 3-yard gain by Mike Smith. And now another give up the middle. 23 seconds and counting.
Charlie, going back to that last play where Mike Smith came around the side there, just a prime example of why this offense hasn't been getting going. Wyatt Bertuzzi was a wideout on the outside by the numbers on the far side, and he completely missed this block where that defender wrapped up Mike Smith for only 3 yards. And he had 10, 12, 13 yards to make a play, and he just flat out missed the block, and he was wrapped up and tackled. So plays like that are what are defining this goose egg on the scoreboard here in the first half.
And that will take us to the end of the first half. John Carroll, 28, Capital, nothing. Coming up, We will have the Rusty Bucket halftime show for you. We'll go over the stats and examine scores across the OAC as well as Division I football. That is coming up in a mere moments. Again, John Carroll leading Capital 28-0 here at the half. This is Capital Football here on athletics.capital.edu. Welcome into the Rusty Bucket halftime show. At the half, John Carroll leading Capital 28-0. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Danis. Right now, they are introducing the homecoming court here in 2019 here at Burnlor Stadium. Happy homecoming to all of you on this particular weekend here in mid-October. Let's go ahead and take a look at some scores. First, some scores around the OAC, brought to you by the Rusty Bucket. There are only 2 other games that are being played around the OAC today. We begin at Wilmington, where the Quakers are playing host to the Purple Raiders of Mount Union. It is all Mount Union in that game. Mount Union 42, Wilmington 6. Deangelo Fulford, we talked a little bit about him in the pregame show, taking our look around the Ohio Athletic Conference. And today, he's having another impressive game, 14 of 19 through the air, 245 passing yards, and 5 passing touchdowns. Our other game involves Marietta and Heidelberg. Right now, it is the Student Princes on top of the Pioneers, 14-6, 14:53 remaining in the second quarter of that game. What has stood out to you when it comes to that Heidelberg-Marietta game so far, Tom?
Both teams 3-1. This is a very deciding game for both teams. It's really going to separate who's coming out on top and falling to the bottom of that OAC standings. And Vic Giovango, so far having a pretty decent game. McSweeney, he's always given it 100% for the Pioneers. So it's going to be exciting to see who comes out at the end of this game, because it's really going to dictate who's battling with John Carroll and the likes of it for the OAC.
We saw Marietta earlier this year, pretty good offensive ball club, and we will see Heidelberg coming up in the month of November, and that being Capital. So those are scores around the OAC. Now, real quick, a couple of interesting scores when it comes to Division I football. We begin with the Red River Shootout, that big game they play during the Texas State Fair over there in Dallas, Texas. And right now it is 6th-ranked Oklahoma leading 11th-ranked Texas in that one by a score of 20-10, 3:34 remaining in the third quarter. Kind of surprised that Oklahoma, with all the offensive fireworks led by their quarterback Jalen Hurts, the front runner for the Heisman Trophy, the fact that they only have 20 points at this point.
Yeah, Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, all those guys. Kirby Smart Bob Stoops put together a good program over there for Oklahoma. And Texas is still a good club. Sam Ellington, good quarterback. He's also in the talks for Heisman. But Oklahoma, I just think, is too big of a powerhouse and should come out with the win. I think second half they're going to put together a lot more points.
Meanwhile, big upset brewing in between the hedges. Folks at Sanford Stadium down in Athens, Georgia, starting to get a little worried about their Bulldogs. They trail South Carolina 17-10 with 9:59 remaining in the fourth quarter. Georgia ranked 3rd in the country. There's been all this talk about how there could be a couple of SEC teams in the college football playoff. If South Carolina were to find a way to beat the Bulldogs today, Tom, that could clear a lot of things up going forward.
Yeah, and I was watching the live stream right here. Jake Fromm was just driving with the Bulldogs, and he had just intercepted to Israel Makamu down to the SoCal 35. So that's another interception that Jake Fromm has made, and these are costly mistakes that he's making, down 7 points late in the fourth quarter to Southern Carolina. And it's tough for the college football playoff if they want to have a chance.
A couple of other scores involving top 25 teams in Division I. 16th-ranked Michigan leading unranked Illinois 28-10 with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. And finally, they're just about to begin playing in the fourth quarter at Temple. The Owls leading 23rd-ranked Memphis 23-21 in that one. When we come back, we will take a look at the statistics from the first half of our football game. John Carroll leading Capital 28-0 here at the half. This is the Rusty Bucket Halftime Show here on your home for Crusaders football, athletics.capital.edu. Still here at halftime, Dominique McIntyre and Ishan Tamar named the homecoming queen and king here at Capitol. Congratulations to those two. Here at the half, it is John Carroll leading Capitol 28-0. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Danes. Before we get to the stats, let's go ahead and give you the scoring summary of this game. And as you would expect, all John Carroll so far. Michael Caganelli opened the scoring on an 8-yard touchdown run after John Carroll was set up beautifully following a long interception return by senior linebacker Tyshawn Jones. That was quickly followed up by a 55-yard rushing touchdown by Devin Limerick. That came with 4.5 to play in the first quarter. And then 2 more rushing touchdowns by Caganelli in the second quarter. One from 18 yards out that took place at 10:53 to go in the first half. And then one from 55 yards out. It was like a serpent crisscrossing the field on that particular jaunt towards the end zone. Men 17 remaining in the second quarter when Caganelli was able to cross the goal line on that. So that leads to John Carroll leading Capitol 28-0 here at the half. Let's go ahead and now take a look at the statistics of this game. First with the team statistics. John Carroll 9 first downs, Capitol 8. Rushing yardage. John Carroll 218 rushing yards, Capitol only 29. Passing yards, John Carroll 49, Capitol 75. Total offense, John Carroll 267, Capitol 104. When it comes to penalties, John Carroll 5 for 39. Capitol has yet to be penalized in this game thus far. Possession time, John Carroll 7 minutes and 6 seconds. Capitol 36 minutes and 30 seconds. Third down conversions, John Carroll 1 of 3, Capitol 0 of 5. Fourth down conversions, John Carroll has yet to go for it on fourth down. Capitol, meanwhile, 0 of 1. And John Carroll a perfect 2 of 2 on scoring chances from the red zone. Tom, you and I were talking about this before we came back on air. It is mind-boggling how John Carroll is up 28-0, despite the fact that Capitol has more than triple the possession time when it comes to holding on to the ball on offense.
12 more plays for Capitol and 150 less yards. JCU's just making it count when they get the ball in their hands. They're not taking their time. They're not churning out first downs. They're getting the ball and getting 30, 40 yards per play. And that's why they've only had the ball for 7 minutes, because they get the ball at about the 45-yard line, run 2 or 3 plays, and Caganelli runs into the end zone for 6 more points. So the ability to stop these big plays and to actually give the ball in their hands a little more would be more beneficial, because it would mean that they're not running the ball all around the field like they had in the first half.
Now I want to pause on the statistical analysis for right now, because what they're doing on the field is pretty cool. Tom, you and I got to call quite a few men's basketball games for Capitol last year as they honor last year's team that shared a piece of the OAC regular season title. They won a couple games in the national tournament as well. Boy, that was a great team to watch last season.
It was awesome. I'm looking down at the field right now. I'm looking at guys like Will Hanna, Joey Weingartner, Austin Schreck, Caleb Cox. Those guys that are gone now from this year's roster, big assets for this team. And it's a great team put together, a great year.
It's going to be interesting to see how Capitol plays this year, leading with all that senior leadership leaving after graduation. And, of course, athletics.capitol.edu will be your home for both men's and women's basketball here at Capitol. Cannot wait for that. Back to the statistical analysis now for our football game as we look at the individual statistics. And we were just talking about this young man a moment ago, Michael Caganelli. 12 carries, 150 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, a long of 55 yards, and he is averaging 12.5 yards per carry. He has simply been spectacular today for John Carroll.
And Rogachevsky needs to talk to his team, and their main focus is Caganelli. They need to be able to stop him rushing the ball up the gut almost every play. If we look at the stats again, only 49 passing yards for John Carroll compared to our 75. We talked about it in the pregame. They do not pass the ball a lot, and it is not. And most of those yardage of those 50 yards are on one big play. So they're going to keep putting it down Capitol's throat, putting it right down the middle in the trenches. Capitol needs to step up on the defensive line and make some plays and stop Caganelli from getting into the end zone.
Rest of the individual statistics offensively for John Carroll. Devin Limerick only had 1 carry, but he made it count as it was a 55-yard jaunt to the end zone. 1 carry for 9 yards for Zach Barther, and 2 carries for 4 yards for quarterback Jake Floria. Speaking of Floria, he went 5 of 6 through the air for a mere 49 passing yards. Hasn't been asked to throw the ball all that much for John Carroll. Receiving, Keyshawn Coleman's got a couple of catches for 29 yards. Evan Nugent, a couple of receptions for 15. And Devin Limerick, 1 catch for 5 yards. Meanwhile, for Capital, Evan Butler, leading rusher with 19 rushing yards, only averaging 2.4 yards per carry. 6 carries for Dylan Schoonover, 15 rushing yards for him. And let's see here. Smith with a carry for 5 yards. McGill with a carry for 3 yards as well. Mitchell Mayshock, meanwhile, 9 of 12 through the air for 75 yards, but he has been sacked 3 times, and he does have an interception. Finally, Mike Smith with 4 catches for 26 yards. Evan Butler with a couple of receptions for 14. Sam Pickett with a reception for 14, and Cam Lee with a reception for 12 yards. As we get set for the second half, Tom, what do you need to see from Capital going forward?
We just talked about it. Canganelli, he needs to be stopped, because if they can stop him from getting big yardage, I think the defense take care of itself. JCU is not going to throw the ball all around the yard. They're going to run it. And I think if they're able to stop the run, stop Canganelli from getting out in open space and making plays, they're going to have a good second half. But I also need to see some production from the offense. Mayshock needs to come out and make some plays, but the scheme has to change when it comes to running the football, because the rush blocking is not where it needs to be for the O-line right now. And it's not going to get better unless it's a quick change, and Evan Butler and Dylan Schoonover are going to be able to get through for 6-7 yards. So I'd like to see the ball through the air a little more, but better decisions from Mayshock going forward, because we can't have those blatant interceptions like that where you can kind of see them coming, and it's just a bad decision.
Last year, John Carroll shut out Capital 44-0. Capital looking to avoid a similar fate here today, here on homecoming. Coming out of halftime, it'll be John Carroll leading Capital 28-0. We will have the second half action here at Bernlohr Stadium coming up in just a moment. This is your home for Crusaders football. Athletics.capital.edu. Coming out of halftime, John Carroll leading Capital 28-0 alongside Tom Cavanaugh. I'm Charlie Danis. So glad that you could spend your Saturday afternoon with us here on athletics.capital.edu. Happy homecoming to all of you Crusader fans, the parents that are listening out there, the family, the relatives, all those good people that support the purple and white. Speaking of the purple and white, Tom, let's hope for better execution here, as Capital will need it as they try to break through on the scoreboard finally.
Yeah, we're going to need to see some confidence coming out of here in the second half. Just got to wipe the slate. Think about it as a 0-0 game. Come out like nothing happened and just play some football. That's all you got to do. They've been playing it their whole lives.
Blake Middleton will kick off. Back to receive for John Carroll, Devin Limerick, and Mike Caglianeri. Limerick will take it at the 10, 15, 20, 25, and he will eventually be spun down and taken down.
Now, if I'm a betting man here, Charlie, I'd say the first 3 or 4 plays from scrimmage are going to be to Canganelli. So Capital needs to know that, and they need to be able to come out and sniff it out and make a play on him.
Quincy Edwards making the special team tackle for Capital. Crusaders in danger of falling to 0-5 overall in the season, 0-4 within conference play. John Carroll, meanwhile, looking to improve to 4-1 overall and 3-1 within conference play. 1st and 10 for John Carroll from their own 26-yard line as Floria will now check with the John Carroll sideline. He'll audible at the line of scrimmage. Now he'll be back in the shotgun. The give is to Canganelli. Canganelli will bulldoze his way across the 30 to the 32-yard line, taking a couple of Capital defenders with him as well, as eventually making the tackle was Nick Bosonic.
You think about some of the running backs in the league right now in college sports that are just so highly touted. They have that skill that Canganelli showed right there of stopping on a dime and cutting up field. It's a good move.
2nd and 4. John Carroll at their own 32. Floria goes with the deep bomb. Caught at the 35. 25-20. 15-10-5 touchdown. Well, in the first half, the big plays offensively were made by the running backs. To begin the second half, the Blue Streaks go to the air as Evan Nugent is able to snag a touchdown right there.
2 plays, 75 yards. Defense has to be better than that.
Nugent, a 6'2 senior from Rocky River, Ohio. Floria was not asked to throw the ball all that much in the first half, but here in the second half, he begins it with a bang through the air. So now Lupo on for the extra point. Snap back, hold down, kick is up, and it is good. We will step aside for a moment. 14-13 remain in the third quarter. John Carroll, 35, Capital nothing. This is Capital Football on athletics.capital.edu. $14-13 remaining in the third quarter. And just like that, John Carroll is able to add to its lead. The Blue Streaks now leading the Crusaders 35-0 thanks to a 68-yard touchdown reception by Evan Nugent, catching it from his quarterback, Jake Floria. Floria's first passing touchdown of the day, Nugent's first touchdown reception of the day. And how about this? The Blue Streaks showcasing it through the air offensively, Tom.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I thought they were going to keep going to Canganelli since he put up 6 or 7 on that first play of the drive. But, I mean, nice little long ball to Nugent. It was a nice play. It was refreshing. I like to see that.
Ball fumbled at the 1-yard line. Eventually picked up at the 1-yard line, and Capital is not going to have good field position right there, as there was a miscue that time by Jared Harris, 5'10", freshman wide receiver from Yorktown, Indiana. 1st and 10 for Capital, starting at their 4-yard line. Capital just hoping at this point that things will not snowball from here. We kind of saw something like this happen during the Marietta game, the last time that we called a football game here at Burnlor Stadium, where mistake upon mistake just kind of stacked up on top of one another, and Capital just really wasn't able to recover from it. Let's see what Mayshock and company can do right here. The give is to Butler, and Butler will take it a couple yards across the 5 to about the 6-yard line. So that'll be a gain of 3 on the play for Evan Butler. So slowly but surely, Capital trying to dig its way out from under the shadow of its own goalpost. Mayshock, still out there at quarterback, by the way. So Mayshock will be in the shotgun. A receiver to his left, 2 to the right. Mayshock We'll give to Schoonover. Schoonover will take it across the 5, and he'll eventually be stacked up and taken down at the Capital 8-yard line. So that'll be only a gain of 2 on the play, setting up a third down situation for Capital.
Now, Capital has gone to these run plays over and over again, and I talked about it before we came back for the second half. They had to change up the scheme somehow. They keep running these balls, and they keep getting a couple yards, so it's a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and then they're going to decide to pass the football, only on 3rd down, when I think they should be passing 1st, 2nd down, trying to get big yard first downs.
Mayshak back to throw over the middle, and it is incomplete. He was trying to throw up a ball for Cam Lee, and we know that Lee can leap up and get that one, but even that was a little too tall for him that time. That will lead to a 3-and-out for Capital on their first offensive possession of the second half.
And it's also really predictable as a defense and as a defensive coordinator as well. If you're seeing a team go down and run the ball the first 2 plays of a drive and then not get a first down and then go for the pass on 3rd down, you know what kind of coverage to run every single play because you know what sequence they're going to run the ball in. They have to switch it up. They have to start passing the ball more.
Pertusit on the punt the football away. And this will be taken at the 41, 35, 30, 25, and that is a very good return right there for Nate Leopold. Sophomore out of Merceville, Pennsylvania. Now flags are thrown all over the place as now there are extracurricular activities between both teams. I think every single official managed to throw their penalty flag that time. I've never seen that in a football game.
There's 5? Yep.
I think you might be right.
That's 5.
So now we patiently await the call from our head referee, Wes Davis. I'm sure there's probably a lot to shore up here before John Carroll takes over on offense once again. And I think that's just frustration boiling over at this point with Capital trailing John Carroll 35-0 with 12:22 remaining here in the third quarter. Still, you got to play a little smarter than that.
Definitely. I mean, tempers are definitely going to flare in a situation like this. And you see Cole Carter down there giving it to his teammates because you just can't do that. You have to be able to keep your cool in a situation when you're down a good amount of points and still play football and still, play with discipline. And we talked about it at the half. Capital hadn't been flagged all game, but, I mean, they're going to be flagged for this here. So we'll see how they hash it out because there were 5 flags thrown, so there were several different penalties. But there was actually one flag that was on the punt return. I think it might have been a block on the back against John Carroll, but we'll figure it out.
12:22 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 35, Capital nothing. Check of scores around the OAC once again as we check in on Wilmington and Mount Union. They're about to start the second half of that game. Mount Union leading Wilmington 42-6. And Marietta playing host to Heidelberg. Right now it is Heidelberg 28, Marietta 12. 7:49 left to play in the second quarter of that game. That game started at 2 o'clock, unlike our game that started at 1:30. So that's why they're still in the first half of that game. Heidelberg boasting one of the top offenses in the OAC this year, as Joey Gephardt, 9 of 14 through the air, a couple of passing touchdowns, and he's also thrown for 112 passing yards as well. We'll keep an eye on the scoreboard definitely for you, as there's some interesting action taking place not only around the OAC but around Division I football as well. So
have 2 dead ball fouls, unsportsmanlike penalty fouls on Capital, number 33 and number 44. That is both their first occurrence. Both those penalties will be marked off separately. First down. This way.
Michael Macbeth, backup linebacker, and Corey Roth, backup defensive lineman, are the guilty parties for Capital on those 2 penalties right there. And again, Tom, I get it. You're down 35-0. You're clearly frustrated. It boils over at some point, but you got to have the mental fortitude to not commit mistakes like that, because now, after that decent punt return and those penalties, John Carroll now has the ball at your 15-yard line.
Yeah, and that can't happen. I mean, I know it's only 10 yards from where the ball was originally down at, but you're right. Just the discipline portion of it needs to be better, and I think these guys know that, and they were definitely the captains and the leaders that know that, but younger guys need to follow up.
Jake Floria, meanwhile, in the shotgun, and he will give to Limerick. Limerick around left end, inside the 10. He'll be pushed out of bounds around the 7-yard line or so. Another good pickup that time by Limerick, who already has a rushing touchdown. He had a 55-yarder go for pay dirt all the way back in the first quarter. So 12-12 remaining here in the third quarter. John Carroll once again knocking on the door as they look to add to their 35-0 lead over Capital. 2nd and 3. John Carroll at the Capital 8-yard line. Give to the fullback. And no, actually, it was Floria who kept it. He fooled me up here as he's eventually taken down at the 12-yard line. Tried to fake out the defense a little bit on what looked to be an option play, but Capital was right there to snuff it out.
Yeah, Blaine McCulley did a great job of him and company reading that play, making sure that the ball wasn't handed off to the running back that time, and Floria kept it.
So now it's 3rd and 7. John Carroll at the Capital 12-yard line. Floria looking to the John Carroll sideline. He'll have a receiver to each side of the field, and they have the two big boys in the backfield, Limerick and Caganelli. And now John Carroll will take a timeout. We'll take a timeout along with them. 11:10 remaining here in the third quarter. John Carroll 35, Capital nothing here on athletics.capital.edu. Well, following the timeout, John Carroll maintains this offensive possession. 11:10 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 35, Capital nothing. Floria. It's a man in motion. That'd be Limerick. He'll be split out wide to the right. Now a play fake. Floria rushing to his right, throws off his back foot, and that is incomplete. Limerick put up a hand in vain that time, but even if he had miraculously caught that ball, he would have been well out of bounds. So now it'll be 4th down. The Capital defense stands tall that time, despite the fact that John Carroll had great field position. And now it will be a field goal attempt for Anthony Lupo, 5'3" sophomore from Erie, Pennsylvania.
I want to give some kudos to Capital's defense there. Great job of pass rushing and getting to Floria and making him scramble out of the pocket and make an off-balance throw that was inaccurate. Good job by the defense to limit it here.
Lupo, right-footed kicker. Snap back, goal down, kick on the way. It is up, and it is good. We'll take a timeout once again. 10:56 remain in the third quarter. John Carroll, 38. Capital nothing here on athletics.capital.edu. .56 remain in the third quarter. John Carroll 38, Capital nothing. A field goal by kicker Anthony Lupo has extended the John Carroll lead by 3. But hey, finally a positive that we can talk about, Tom, in that Capital's defense able to stand tall, not allow John Carroll to get into the end zone yet again.
Yeah, we saw some baby steps there from the defense. I thought they did a good job on that drive. John Carroll kind of went away from giving the ball to Canganelli and wanted to drop back and make a play with Floria's arm in that possession. But it's good to get him the reps, and I was a little surprised by it. But good job by Capitals.
Kick is away. It'll be taken to the 5-yard line, to the 10, to the 15. And, a hard hit at about the 17-yard line is returning the ball for Capital. Was Jared Harris, freshman out of Yorktown, Indiana. So now Capital's offense will come back onto the field. Mitchell Mayshock still in at quarterback. When Mayshock has had time, he's looked pretty good from the pocket. When he hasn't had time, he's simply been a sitting duck back there. The run game has had its good moments here and there, but mostly it's been yet another struggle for this Capital offensive unit who's looking for growth, looking for hope going forward. Mayshock, right-handed quarterback in the shotgun. 2 receivers to his right, 1 to his left. He will take the snap. It's rolled to him, and Mayshock has no choice but to sprint to the 21-yard line. Boy, that snap went back to him like a bowling ball going down a lane.
Yeah, must have hit the turf or something, just a bad snap that time. It was low. But I like the point you made earlier, Charlie, about how Mayshock, when he makes good passes when he has time, and when he doesn't have time, it's when he throws those interceptions. Because both interceptions we saw were on quick tosses when he had like half a second to get the ball off and make a play.
Mayshock, meanwhile, still in the shotgun. 3 receivers to his right, 1 to his left. Mayshock will give to Evan Butler. Butler runs into his own man and then runs into a host of John Carroll defenders as he's stacked up and eventually taken down at the 21-yard line. Boy, it has been tough sledding for Evan Butler today, as Cal Reynolds led the charge defensively for John Carroll that time, setting up a 3rd and long situation.
Yeah, and a couple names we haven't talked about all half are guys like Cam Lee, Mike Smith, Wyatt Bertucci. Haven't heard their names much at all this half, and we got it. I think incorporating them would help out this offense a little bit more.
Mayshock back to throw. It is incomplete. The intended target was Wyatt Bertucci that time, senior out of Richwood, Ohio, but Bertucci was not able to hold on to the ball. And another punting situation yet again for Capital. Bertucci was there, could have made the catch that time, but instead, Bertucci will now switch roles from wide receiver to punter.
That's one of those balls where, as a receiver, you use your hands, not your body, because you have those big shoulder pads up on your chest, and when you bring it in on your body, it's easy to bounce off and not make the catch instead of using your hands and making that play.
And now Bertucci not able to handle the snap cleanly, and he will be tackled back at the 5-yard line. Boy, oh boy. Things are just going from bad to worse for the Crusaders, as Bertucci was not able to get the punt off in time. And boy, that's a recent sequence right there for Bertucci that he will want to forget. First, the drop the drop on 3rd down offensively, and then not being able to handle the ball cleanly on a punt. So now beautiful field position here for John Carroll.
I spotted up at the 4-yard line. They might as well give it to Canganelli and see what he can do, but Capital still got to stand tall here on a 4-yard line and try to make a play and force another field goal opportunity.
So now, Jake Floria in the shotgun, a receiver to each side of the field. A man will be put in motion. Limerick is the running back, and Limerick will get into the end zone. Instant offense, instant scoring. Touchdown, John Carroll. Second rushing touchdown of the day for Devin Limerick. He had a 55-yard scamper to pay dirt all the way back in the first quarter, And now he has his second score here, coming with 9:21 remaining in the third quarter as the beat goes on for this John Carroll rushing attack. Boy, I tell you what, this running back duo of Mike Caganelli and Devin Limerick, they have been absolutely dynamic for this John Carroll offense. The kick is up, and it is good. So 9:21 remaining in the third quarter. It is John Carroll 45, Capital nothing. We will step aside for just a moment here. This is Crusaders football on athletics.capital.edu. .921 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll, 45. Capital, nothing. How about this? It took as long as it did how much yardage John Carroll to score. 4 seconds, 4 yards, another touchdown for Devin Limerick. His second rushing touchdown of the day. That is what's led John Carroll to have a 45-0 lead with 9:21 remaining here in the third quarter. And now a fair catch will be made at the 3-yard line by Harris.
Crusaders will take over on offense, 1st and 10.
So Capital will begin with the ball at the 25-yard line. So Harris actually using good strategy right there. The new rule was enacted in college football a couple years ago. If you fair caught the ball within the 10-yard line on a kickoff return, it would instantly come out to the 25-yard line. Part of the safety stipulations that college football has implemented over the last couple of years, particularly on kickoffs. Schoonover with the carry, trying to change direction. And he will run into Cal Reynolds while picking up a yard, as he'll take it to the 26-yard line.
And Schoonover that time tried to find a hole as the block was going from right to left. And he just couldn't find it, and he just got swallowed up in the backfield.
9 minutes remain in the third quarter. John Carroll, 45. Capital nothing. Thanks for sticking with us here at athletics.capital.edu. 3 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side. Mayshock in the shotgun. Mayshock back to pass. A throw, and that is incomplete. And that was a miscommunication that time between him and Mike Smith, who got jammed up at the line of scrimmage. And now it's 3rd and long for Capital from its own 26-yard line. Mayshock looking to the Capital offensive line as Andrew Ray sending in signals along with head coach Chad Rogaszewski. Mayshock in the shotgun. 2 receivers to each side of the field. On this 3rd and 9 from the Cap 26. Mayshock back to throw. It was incomplete. Mike Smith twisted and turned in vain as he was trying to make the catch, but that is an incomplete pass. And now another punt attempt for Capital, and hopefully this time this punt attempt will go a lot better for Capital than the last one.
And that pass right there from Mayshock threw it to the backside shoulder of Mike Smith as he was running towards the outside onto the sideline. If you're going to throw that pass, you got to throw it to the outside shoulder, excuse me, not the inside shoulder, so you can lead him. He had to turn back and try to turn around, and that's how he slipped in the turf and fell as an incompletion. So you got to hit that outside shoulder.
And how about this? Cam Lee is in to punt the football away. Instead of Pertusa, it's Cam Lee. Now the ball is on the ground. There's a dog pile near the 48-yard line. Did John Carroll recover it? Yes, they did. That was muffed initially by Nate Leopold, the punt returner. But luckily for him, one of his teammates pounced upon the ball. And John Carroll, once again, will have excellent field position starting at their own 48-yard line. 8:26 to play here in the third quarter. John Carroll 45, Capital nothing. Now, folks, I want to get you updated on the upcoming schedule for Capital here. Next week, Capital's going to have a tough road to hoe as they go up to nationally ranked Mount Union. That game is scheduled for a 1:30 kickoff. That'll be followed by another equally hard contest when they take on the Polar Bears at Ohio Northern on the 26th. And then back home here, November 2nd, the rivalry game. Capital, Otterbein, one of the best rivalries that the OAC has to offer. As the tackle is made that time by Nick Bosonic. Bosonic bringing down the ball carrier for John Carroll as John Carroll once again goes into Capital territory. The backups are in offensively for John Carroll, at least at the quarterback position. Joe Collins, freshman from Grand Rapids, Michigan, 6'1", 175. As my partner raises the roof a little bit, him being a Michigan fan and all, or a Michigan native, I should say. You're a Michigan State fan, excuse me, partner. As that catch is made and taken inside the 35-yard line, making the reception for John Carroll was Gavin Mardick, sophomore tight end from Elizabeth, Pennsylvania.
And Joe Collins not skipping a beat as the quarterback to just jump in now here in the third quarter. Good way to sit in the pocket, nice pass delivery, and he's marching right now. Let's see if he can put something together, but I'd really like to see Capital come through with a big stop.
Martin, meanwhile, in the shotgun, receiver to each side of the field. And now they give us to the John Carroll tailback inside the 30 to the 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Another touchdown run by a John Carroll running back. This time it's Matthew Buser, a freshman tailback from Akron, Ohio. Went to Richfield Revere High School. And let's see here. 3 by Caganelli, 2 by Limerick, and 1 by Buser, the freshman. That's now 5 rushing touchdowns on the day for John Carroll.
This Capital defense right now, they just look tired. They look worn out. I see guys hands on their knees. They look tired, man. They need to be able to come up with a few plays. But Buser, nice job that time to find a hole and weave on through, bump it to the outside.
Lupo, meanwhile, knocks through the extra point. Let's take a timeout. 7:18 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 52, Capital nothing. Here on athletics.capital.edu. $7:18 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 52, Capital nothing. Drive summary from the latest scoring drive for the Blue Streaks. 1 minute, 8 seconds. Matthew Buser, 34-yard rushing touchdown, the 5th rushing touchdown of the day for John Carroll, who just continue to pile up yards on the ground. They love the ground and pound up there at JCU. So now Lupo will kick things away for John Carroll. Harris will take it at the 10, 15, 20, 25 to about the 27-yard line. And that'll be decent field position for Capital as the Crusader offense comes back onto the field, and a change at quarterback has been made for Capital. As coming in at quarterback will be Andrew Ray, the 6', 200-pound junior from Troy, Ohio. So the day is done for Mitchell Mashock. The rest of the starting offense is in there for Capital. And now a give to the tailback for Capital, running with the football, Jaden Giannattino, the junior from Zanesville, Ohio. Attended West Muskingum High School. He takes over at running back as Cam Lee will check out for Capital. And there's Mayshot giving out the signals from the sideline as well, you know, being a good teammate. Had a few good moments, but Tom, at the end of the day, Capital needed to make a change at quarterback here as they're trying to avoid being shut out. So now Ray will be in the shotgun. 3 receivers to the near side. Genatino out of the backfield with a reception to the 25. He'll be hit out of bounds around the 28-yard line or so.
And I feel like Mitchell Mayshot really didn't have that bad of a day, you know. I mean, he did throw 1 interception. Second half, he had a couple incompletions, but I mean, mostly he handed the ball off to Butler or Schoonover, and then he had a lot of nice completions in the first half. So not a bad day for Mayshot.
Ray, meanwhile, in the shotgun. He'll go back to pass. Looking downfield. Got hammered as he let loose that ball, but he'll get back up as that'll be incomplete into the JCU's sideline. Making the hit that time was Tyler Frederick, who has seemingly been all over the field from his defensive tackle spot.
In a situation like that, as a quarterback, you have to protect yourself. Andrew Ray held on to that ball for a little too long, and it opened up for that hit. If he throws that ball earlier and he gets hit like that, it's going to be a hit on the quarterback. But he held on to that for a little too long, and he got popped.
So Cam Lee, for the second time today, will punt the football away. Remember, it was Wyatt Pertusip who had been holding down the punter spot for a long, long time, but he muffed up a punt attempt earlier in this quarter, and now Cam Lee has taken over as this one will roll out of bounds eventually at the John Carroll 42-yard line. 5:50 left to play here in the third quarter. It is John Carroll 52, Capital nothing. Happy homecoming to all of you. This is Capital Football here in athletics.capital.edu alongside Tom Cavanaugh. I'm Charlie Danis. Beautiful fall day here in Bexley, Ohio. The high is only expected to be in the mid to upper 50s. Nice fall breeze blowing throughout Bexley today. It's been a beautiful day weather-wise. Not such a beautiful day for Capital football as they trail big against John Carroll here late in the third quarter. Meanwhile, give to yet another John Carroll tailback. This is Devin Ward, and Ward takes it into Capital territory across the 45 to the 44-yard line. Ward, a junior from Delaware, Ohio. 6 foot, 185 pounds. So at this point in the ball game, both teams are emptying the benches, allowing those young guys to get reps. And these are important reps for both teams going forward, Tom.
Definitely, and I think the more opportunities, the better for these young guys. Collins coming in, he's giving it all he's got, and giving a lot of these other young guys from JCU opportunities is going to help them in the long run, not only for the rest of the season, but next year. Collins,
still in at quarterback for John Carroll, takes the low snap, now will hand to the 40, to the 35, down to the 30-yard line. Another strong run.
Number 26, Howard Frazier.
Howard Frazier, the 5'10 sophomore from Alliance, Ohio. And now there is a Capital player face down on the turf. Looks like that is Quincy Edwards. He's a freshman defensive back from Columbus, Ohio, played at Pickerington Central. Boy, head coach Jay Sherritt has got it going on at that high school program at Pick Central. Pick Central and Pickerington North. Those are two teams out of the Pickerington area, obviously, that are doing great work at the high school level here in 2019. And now one of their native sons is lying down on the field right now. While they attend to him, let's step aside. 5:11 left to play here in the third quarter. John Carroll 52, Capital nothing. Actually, just as I say that, he's now being helped off the field. Good to see the young man get off the turf after a hit like that.
And one thing I want to point out, Charlie, number 9, Andrew Ray, our quarterback right now, he is in on defense, so he's playing both sides of the ball as of right now for the Crusaders.
Ray has the same number as Dakota Kirkbride, who's a 5'10", 185-pound freshman from Zanesville, Ohio. Kirkbride has been getting a lot more playing time out there. I think that might be Kirkbride, actually.
I didn't know they could do that.
Throw, and caught. No, they will say incomplete. Trying to make the reception for John Carroll was Brennan Few, who's a 5'11 freshman from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But he was not able to get the necessary footage inbounds. And so now it'll be 2nd and 10 for John Carroll from the Capital 30-yard line. 4:58 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 52, Capital nothing. Joe Collins still in at quarterback, the Michigan native. And he will hand once again to Ward. Ward, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Another rushing touchdown for John Carroll. This time it's Devin Ward. The 6-foot junior from Delaware, Ohio, finds the end zone. And now another Capital player is down on the field. Hurt as Wyatt Long, the junior linebacker out of Piqua, is down on the turf right now. And that's kind of emblematic of this Capital defense today. They have just been beat up. Wyatt on his back right now as they attend to him. 4:48 remaining in the third quarter. John Carroll 58, Capital nothing. Well, Tom, let's talk a little about this John Carroll team for just a moment. We know that they lost to Mount Union, and odds are, assuming that Mount Union is able to run the table, they will probably be the ones that win the OAC title yet again. Having said that, this John Carroll team, what do you make of this team, and what do you give their chances of getting into the NCAA tournament, finishing in the upper echelon of the OAC this year?
Well, coming into this game, in 2 different polls, ranked at number 14 and number 16, this team is still highly touted, finishing 8-1 in conference last year, just right behind Mount Union at the number 2 spot. This team's got it all. I mean, they play really good defense. Florida can throw the ball, but I see a lot of the same characteristics from a lot of different running backs, and their backs got it going on. I mean, all these guys are churning out yards, able to make the right reads on blocks, and they're all getting to the end zone. And put all those things together, I think they might have a shot. And if they stay above the top of the OAC and the NCAA Division III conference, anything's possible for this team, and I think they got the talent to do it.
Anthony Lupo kicks it through the uprights. We will keep things right here at Berlin Stadium. 4:48 left to play in the third quarter. John Carroll 59, Capital nothing. All right, let's take a quick look at the OAC standings for just a moment. Obviously, Mount Union, undefeated, most likely will win the OAC this year, barring something absolutely miraculous. Baldwin-Wallace and Ohio Northern tied for second at 3-1 within the conference, followed by Heidelberg, John Carroll, and Marietta. How many teams, Tom, do you legitimately think the OAC can put into the NCAA tournament this year?
I'll give it to Mount Union as 1.
Okay.
John Carroll 2, because I think whoever they play, I think Mount Union's going to be their only loss of the year. I think they're going to wipe out everybody else they play besides Mount Union, who they lost to earlier. Heidelberg looks like they're going to get a win. And I could give it to Ohio Northern because Christian Williams is a big asset to that team, as well as Tommy Fleeser, because special teams is also a big part of the game. So I would say Mount Union, ONU, Heidelberg, and JCU are the top 4 teams. I don't think Baldwin-Wallace is going to stay up there at the top. I think too many teams are going to beat them outright, and it's not going to be they're not going to look good for the NCAA tournament and all that. So I like those 4 teams.
Okay. We will go with that. 4 teams coming out of the OAC. Boy, that'd be a great draw for the Ohio Athletic Conference, if you ask me. As Harris will fair catch this. No, yes, fair catch is called for at the 11-yard line. So Capital will once again go back out there on offense from Andrew Ray. Okay, we saw Andrew Ray at the beginning of the season, and to say he looked shaky out there was, an understatement. But here again, going forward, this is about gaining experience. It's about trying to gain confidence for this Capital offense at this point. What do you want to see from Andrew Ray?
I'd love to see him step up in the pocket and make some throws. I know when I did the game with you against Marietta, he struggled to throw the ball over the D-line, and balls were getting tipped, deflected, intercepted. I'd like to see him throw with a little more confidence because, as you said, he did look a little shaky. He didn't look like the Andrew Ray we saw at the end of last year when him and Wibbler would take on teams and compete. I'd like to see him roll out, make a few throws, and just play with some confidence right now.
Andrew Ray in the shotgun. 2 receivers to his right, 1 to his left. And Ray will run forward, and he will get back to the line of scrimmage, and that's about it. So Ray with no gain on the play as Cam Lee will check back in for Capital. Checking out for the Crusaders is Sam Pickett, the sophomore out of Cincinnati, Ohio. As that clock continues to run, 4:20 and counting here in the third quarter. John Carroll, 59, Capital, nothing.
Cam Lee's one guy I really want to see get incorporated here in the second half because we really haven't heard his name at all here in this second half. I'd like to see him targeted just a few times.
Ray in the shotgun. In this 4-wide set, 2 receivers to each side. He'll take the snap. He will throw, and it is caught by Mike Smith at the 15-yard line. In case you missed our profile on Mike Smith earlier in the broadcast, Mike Smith, a really interesting story, played his high school football originally at Grove City. Senior year, he transferred to Upper Arlington, played for the Golden Bears. Then collegiately, he was at Division II Ohio Dominican, played there for a couple years before transferring here to Capital. Initially was a defensive back, got hurt. Because of the lack of depth at wide receiver here at Capital, he got switched back to wide receiver here in 2019, had himself a good game against Baldwin Wallace with 6 catches for about 68 yards or so. And now he finds himself as a starting wide receiver for Capital here as Ray on this 3rd down, trying to spin away from some trouble as he's eventually taken down at the 19-yard line. And now an offensive lineman slow to get up for Capital, as stumbling to his feet was Nick Russell. Russell the left guard, but Russell was able to get off the ground in time. But the bad news is that leads to another 4th down for Capital here. Cam Lee, yet again, will punt it away.
I really want to see if Capital can, somewhere in this 3rd or 4th quarter, put together a drive that gets him into the end zone.
Lee punts it away. It is taken by Leopold. 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. And he'll be tackled out of bounds around the 25-yard line. Boy, John Carroll has been able to get some good yards out of that return game. I tell you what, you'd be hard-pressed to find an offensive possession in this game for John Carroll where they had bad field position. It's been that good special teams-wise for John Carroll today as they will look to add to their 59-0 lead over Capital with 2:18 remaining here in the third quarter. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Danis. Well, Tom, October does not get any easier for this Capital team. They got to go to Mount Union next week. They got to go to Ohio Northern to end the month. Games start to get winnable for this team in November, particularly with that first game against Otterbein, another team in the OAC that's still looking for its first win in 2019. As Collins will take the snap, and he will hand inside the 20 and to the 15 as now flags are thrown everywhere after Howard Frazier carries the ball for John Carroll.
But yeah, back to your point earlier, Charlie. I wouldn't say don't learn off of these next few games, because definitely do. Definitely take bits and pieces of the games you play and learn from the mistakes.
Half the distance to the goal, automatic 1st down.
Defensive penalty called against Capital's Rex Chadia, sophomore defensive lineman from Grove City, Ohio.
But as you talk about these games getting more and more winnable down the stretch, I completely agree with that. And I think you have to take all the things from these next few games and incorporate it into those winnable games against Muskingum, Wilmington, Otterbein.
Collins, meanwhile, will hand off to Ward. Ward looking for some running room inside the 10. Spin move inside the 5, taken down eventually at the 4-yard line. Ward with a rushing touchdown earlier in this game, looking for another one here as we tick closer and closer to the end of the third quarter. That fall breeze starting to pick up a little bit. We look out from our perch here at Bernlohr Stadium, the leaves changing color. Some brown, some yellow. Love the fall colors at this time of the year here in October in the state of Ohio. As now Joe Collins waiting for the snap for John Carroll. And he will hand once again. This time, nice job defensively by Capital as they had Frazier stacked up from the word go. Down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. As Howard Cosell once said in a famous boxing match involving George Foreman and Joe Frazier. A minute remaining here in the third quarter. John Carroll 59, Capital nothing. Collins, once again, in the pistol. Two receivers to his left, one to his right. Collins takes the snap. Hand to Frazier once again. And Frazier is buried. Great penetration up front that time by Capital. Leading the charge defensively for the Crusaders was number 95, Jack Blaisdell. He's a sophomore out of West Unity, Ohio.
Sniffing out that handoff. Good job by the front four. And those those linebackers too did a good job. I feel like if Collins were to hold on to that for a second, he could get to the end zone over there by the pylon. But it is a play call, and got to run with what it is. But good job by Capital.
John Carroll will let the clock run out here as we will tick to the end of the third quarter. And that will take us to the end of the third quarter. John Carroll 59, Capital nothing. We'll have the fourth quarter from Burton Water Stadium coming up in just a moment here on athletics.capital.edu. So fourth down for John Carroll, and they will simply elect to kick a field goal here. Lupo trying to nail down his second field goal of the game. It is up, and it is good. So 5 seconds into the fourth quarter, John Carroll adding to its lead. They now lead Capital 62-0 here in Bexley, Ohio. Alongside Tom Cavanaugh, I'm Charlie Days. It's been a long afternoon for the Crusaders, but we definitely thank you for sticking with us here today on this Saturday afternoon, October the 12th of 2019. The leaves continue to change. The temperature continues to dip a little bit. Pretty soon we'll be celebrating Halloween and all that hoopla, but we are smack dab in the middle of yet another college football season. And, you know, Tom, you're an athlete here. You're a baseball player here at Capital. This has got to be a fun time to be a student here at Capital. You got homecoming weekend. You're right in the middle of classes. This is college life right now.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. It's great. Last couple of weeks we've been getting together. Our new guys have came into our program, and probably with every team here at Capital. It's really nice to get to know those guys and really get to know your team and build that chemistry for that year to come. And yeah, homecoming's a great weekend. Everybody gets together, has a good time, hangs out. I'm excited. It's a good time, and I love fall. I mean, I'm glad it got down to 55 degrees, man. It was up at 85, 90
Hey, listen,
first couple days of October.
We're two sons in the Midwest. We appreciate weather like this. Yes, we understand that old man winter's right around the corner, and, he can be one rough buzzard sometime. But, we enjoy fall, and in the middle of fall, there's nothing like football season, in my opinion, as this one is taken by one of the up men for Capital around the 25-yard line, and this will be taken to about the 27 or so. Genatino was the one who made that return that time for Capital, and he'll be seeing the bulk of carries at running back going forward here for Capital, as Andrew Ray that is, remains in the game for Capital at the QB1 position. It was Mitchell Mayshawk who got the start initially for Capital, but now Ray is looking to play at quarterback for the rest of this game. 14:50 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 62, Capital nothing. And with this big deficit, Capital's main concern, don't get shut out. Try to find a way to get in the end zone. Genatino with a strong run. Nice stiff arm as he slashes his way to the 35-yard line. Gain of 8 on the play by Jaden Genatino. That was an impressive run.
He saw open space outside, recognized it. He didn't try to go into that front four and kind of just bounced it outside for 8 or 9 yards. That was a very intelligent run right there. Nice skilled bounce to the outside.
Genatino will remain in. Also checking in offensively for Capital will be Sebastian McGill. He's a 5'9", 195-pound freshman from Virginia Beach, Virginia. He's in there at that H-back spot. Give us to Genatino once again. Genatino will be ridden down at about the first down marker, so he got a gain of 3 on that play right then. Go, Jaden, go. Another first down for Capital.
Yeah, like to see Capital churning out these first downs, getting more and more yardage. Try to get into JCU territory and make something happen, you know. Give something for these homecoming fans to cheer about here for the Crusaders.
13:45 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 62, Capital nothing, but Capital for right now driving. 3-receiver set. Ray in the shotgun. Andrew Ray will give it to Genatino. Genatino stacked up at the line of scrimmage and doesn't really get much of anything. Maybe half a yard or so on that particular carry. Making the play is Hunter Orlando, sophomore linebacker from Erie, Pennsylvania. A lot of good players can be had in that western Pennsylvania, that part of the state. And John Carroll has clearly been able to take advantage of that area from a recruiting standpoint as Ray in the shotgun. 2 receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Ray will throw, and that's intercepted. Intercepted by John Carroll. Coming the other way is Jake Banovsky. And Banovsky will take it into the end zone. Touchdown, John Carroll. Jake Banovsky, sophomore defensive back from Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania.
It was a good defensive back play. He read that perfectly, came right across the intended receiver, and that's all she wrote right there. Took it all the way back to the house.
12:42 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 68, Capital nothing. That is now the second interception that has been thrown by Capital quarterbacks today. Mayshawk had one earlier in this game. And now Anthony Lupo on for the point after. Kick is up, and it is good. Let's step aside once again. 12:42 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 69, Capital nothing. Here on athletics.capital.edu. .12:42 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 69, Capital nothing. Jake Banovsky is able to take it 43 yards on interception return. As John Carroll continues to pour it on here at Burnmore Stadium. Some of the key stats offensively for John Carroll today. Michael Caganelli, 13 carries, 156 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. 7 rushing touchdowns on the day for John Carroll. 3 by Caganelli, 2 by Limerick, 1 by Ward, and 1 by Matthew Buser. The run game has been fantastic for John Carroll. 338 yards on the ground on only 29 carries. That is pretty good. Harris will take it at the 15. And actually, he will fair catch it. So now Andrew Ray and the Capital offense will come back onto the field. Ray looking for better results after throwing an interception by Jake Banofsky, which, by the way, was the first defensive score today for John Carroll. All their other scores have come via offense. We talked about all the rushing touchdowns. The only one coming through the air, 68-yard touchdown reception by Evan Nugent from Jake Floria. That came early on in the third quarter. So Ray back out there on the field for Capital in this 3 wide receiver set. And the give is up the middle, and we get to see a little bit of the running style of Sebastian McGill, freshman out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Picks up a couple yards on that play.
We talked about it earlier, getting those young guys in to make plays and to, get that college football experience. I think that's very key.
Brady Kuhn, meanwhile, freshman offensive lineman from Palo, Ohio, is down. He is being examined by the training staff for Capital. Let's step aside here momentarily. 12:28 remain in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 69, Capital nothing here on athletics.capital.edu. So Kuhn is brought off the field by the Capital training staff as they attend to him further. Meanwhile, 2nd and 7 for Capital from their own 28. John Carroll 69, Capital nothing. 12:20 remaining in the fourth quarter. Ray will give to Genatino. Nice spin move by Jaden, but John Carroll able to eventually catch up to him as he's eventually taken down to the 30-yard line. Gain of 2 on the play for Genatino.
I like Capital incorporating a lot of different backs right now, trying to get everybody their reps. At this point, still trying to compete in this game, but got to get the reps to the young guys, try to get them that college football experience. So Ben Drake now at the bottom part of your screen at the 30-yard line. See if they can target him once or twice.
3rd and 5 for Capital from their own 30-yard line. Genatino in at tailback. As Ray will take the snap. Back to throw. Over the middle. Caught. And that'll be a reception at the 35-yard line, but a flag thrown back at the 26. The reception for Capital made by number 45, Noah Meeker. He's a junior out of Palo, Ohio, former Olentangy Liberty Patriot. And that will be negated by a holding penalty on Capital. The culprit will be Jake Fries, sophomore offensive lineman from Broadview Heights, Ohio. So just when you think something positive happens for Capital, penalty takes it away, and now this will back things up for Capital. It goes from a 3rd and 5 to now a 3rd and 15. Capital backed up to its own 20-yard line on this upcoming offensive play. 11:21 and counting here in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 69, Capital nothing. This has been a game that John Carroll has dominated for much of the afternoon. Capital, meanwhile, just looking to get something going offensively here. They are in danger of being shut out by this John Carroll team for the 2nd straight year. And boy, that was an odd-looking play. Capital was trying to set up a screen that time. It was almost intercepted by Alec Robustelli, who is being bodied like he was a basketball player by a Capital offensive lineman. Nearly another turnover for Capital, and Capital's just lucky that they get to punt the football away at this point.
Yeah, at a point like that, on a third and long, when you have two guys, Nick Julian and number 52, Daniel Garker, rushing you and about to hit Andrew Ray, you cannot throw off your back foot and try to complete a pass like that. That ball was almost picked. You just got to spike that thing down.
And now the punt is blocked. Cam Lee wasn't able to get that one away. The punt is blocked, and John Carroll once again will have excellent field position. That is the second time today that Capital has had trouble with the punt. The first time was earlier in the game when Wyatt Pertusa wasn't able to handle the snap cleanly, and he was tackled back at his own 5-yard line. This time, John Carroll comes busting through that line like nobody's business, blocks the punt by Cam Lee, and excellent field position for the Blue Streaks right here. Yeah, partner, pretty much. That could be how you can sum this up. It's just been that type of a frustrating day for Chad Rogaszewski and his team. Joe Collins in at quarterback for John Carroll. He's got Devin Ward as his tailback back there, among others. The give is to Ward. Ward trying to find some room. 10-5 into the end zone. Devin Ward, touchdown. That's Ward's second touchdown of the day.
Ward is so good at being able to bounce it to the outside, and I'm surprised they started utilizing him later in this later third, fourth quarter. Because, I mean, he's been nothing but money today. I don't know why he wasn't out there with Kangoleni in the beginning making plays. They got a lot of different versatile options with this team, and that's why going back to them being able to be a team that can compete at the highest of the levels with the OAC and throughout the entire NCAA is they have so many different bits and pieces that go together and make up this team, and a lot of talent.
Point after is good. So that is now the second rushing touchdown of the day for Devin Ward. Scores from 10 yards out. Only takes 3 seconds to do it. Boy, I'm going to be really interested in seeing when we take a look at the final stats. With the amount of points that John Carroll has put up today, how big of a disparity they have in time of possession between Capital and John Carroll. Because people will probably be looking at that time of possession stat line right there and say to themselves, how is it not the other way when it comes to the scoreboard? How is it not Capital leading John Carroll 76-0 instead of the other way around? Because it's simply been mind-boggling how some of these scoring drives have taken so little clock for John Carroll to score. It's really amazing if you think about it.
Well, there have only been a couple times so far, Charlie, where John Carroll's had the ball to start their drive in their own territory. They're usually getting the ball at either the 45-yard line of Capital, the 25-yard line, or maybe even on this past turnover or on the Bertusset fumble, they're getting it on the 3 or 4 yard line. The last time John Carroll had the ball in their own zone to start a drive was when they started on the 25-yard line and only took them 2 plays to go 75 yards. So they haven't had time to be able to, put a drive together to go a mass amount of yards. They only go about 25, 30 yards at most now because they're catching the ball deep in Capital territory.
Another kickoff as Harris will fair catch this one. Capital will come out to its own 25-yard line. Good game going on at Marietta at the moment. 11:38 to play in that game. The Pioneers leading Heidelberg 32-31. It's been a good game for their quarterback, Jimmy Gephardt. 12 of 20 through the air, 136 yards. Couple of passing touchdowns. Also been a good day running the football for Heidelberg's running back, Matt Yearby. 12 carries for 110 yards and a couple of scores. But, boy, we saw that Marietta team, Tom, a couple of weeks ago, mostly Kyle McSweeney. McSweeney is a heck of a player. He's got 4 passing touchdowns on the day, a little over 300 yards passing as well. As this will be a run up the middle by Genatino up to the 29-yard line. McSweeney's having a good day throwing the ball in that game, and How about the game by Gage Giavengo? 5 catches, 95 yards, and a score. Nice back and forth game. A lot of good offenses around the OAC. Marietta, Heidelberg, obviously this John Carroll team, Mount Union obviously. And when John Murray is at tailback for Baldwin Wallace, the Yellow Jackets, they're pretty good too. A lot of quality offensive teams here in the OAC. As it will be a spin move and another turnover for Capital. That is a fumble by Sebastian McGill. That is a fumble recovery for John Carroll's Alec Robustelli.
As soon as he took that spin move at the 42-yard line, that ball just popped right out, and it was all over from there. JCU picked that ball right up. That's another ball security, job security. You have to tighten up on those little things. Even though when we talk discipline, we're not talking penalties, we're not talking losing your temper, we're talking fundamentals. Being able to, keep the ball tucked in that 3-point hold so you don't fumble the football. And sometimes it's the fundamentals are caught up and they're not followed.
So now Joe Collins, backup quarterback for John Carroll, and the rest of that backup Blue Streak offense back into the game. This will be a carry to the 40 to about the 43-yard line, and that is a carry by Michael Johnson, 6'3", 205-pound junior from London, Ohio, not to be confused with the legendary sprinter who put on a show during the 1997 Olympics back in Atlanta. 9:39 and counting in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 76, Capital nothing. So this will bring up a 2nd and 8 for John Carroll from Capital's 39-yard line. And at this point in the game, John Carroll's not looking to score. They're not looking to rub it further in the face of Capital. They're just looking for some run plays to take some time off the clock. That's all there is. As this will be a simple run up the gut for John Carroll's Matthew Buser, who has a rushing touchdown in this game. Freshman out of Akron, Ohio. Attended high school at Richfield Revere. Approaching 9 minutes and counting here in the fourth quarter. John Carroll, 76. Capital nothing. Capital in danger of being shut out for the first time in 2019. In danger of being shut out by John Carroll for the 2nd straight year. They got blanked by the Blue Streaks 44-0 last year. Another give to Johnson. 40, 35, 30, 25. Tackled inside the 20-yard line. Well, that time Johnson was able to show some track-like speed around the corner, fixing up another first down for the Blue Streaks.
There's another guy on this Blue Streaks team that is coming out and picking up big yardage from the back position. Michael Johnson, a guy that hasn't played all game. We just said his name, and he's already picking up big yardage. I think that's huge for JCU going into their more competitive games down the stretch so they can get their young guys that type of experience so they know what to expect.
1st and 10. John Carroll at the Capital 19-yard line. Collins clapping his hands. Takes the snap finally. Gives to Buser. Buser looking for some running room inside the 20. He'll be taking her down inside the 15 as he takes it to about the 14-yard line or so. Actually, Nico Rosso, the ball carrier for John Carroll, excuse me.
Stacked up by the Crusaders near the 14-yard line. Bring up a 2nd and 6.
So now 2nd and 5 for John Carroll from the Capital 14-yard line as we took under 7.5 to play here in the fourth quarter. John Carroll taking their time, letting the time run off the clock. Unfortunately, in games like these, you don't have the running clock rule that was recently instituted by the OHSAA for high school football. Collins gives Matthew Buser the ball carrier once again. The rule in high school is that if you are leading a team by 30 in the second half, you let that clock run unless there either A is a score or an injury. Or a timeout called, of course. So now 1st and goal for John Carroll from Capital's 8-yard line. John Carroll 76, Capital nothing. 6:39 and counting here in the fourth quarter. Collins will give. And Buser trying to inch his way towards the goal line, and he'll be taken down at the 2-yard line as that clock continues to run. Matthew Buser continues to turn out some yards. Boy, at this point, John Carroll's got to have close to 400 yards rushing on the day. As the clock will tick under 6 minutes to play here at Burnlor Stadium. Collins in the shotgun. 2 receivers to his left, 1 to his right, but I think we all know where this play is headed. A probable run by Buser right here. And it is. They'll give the Buser, and he will get into the end zone, virtually untouched. Another touchdown for John Carroll. For Buser, that is his second rushing touchdown of the day. For John Carroll as a team, that is the 9th time that they have scored on the ground. $82-0. Anthony Lupo once again on for the point after for John Carroll. Kick is up, and it is good. John Carroll 83, Capital nothing, 5:38 left to play here in the 4th quarter. Another score update for you around the OAC. We begin with that exciting game between Marietta and Heidelberg. Heidelberg leading Marietta in this one 38-32, 9:02 remaining in the 3rd quarter of that game as it continues to be a back-and-forth affair between the Pioneers and the Student Princes. You cannot say the same for Wilmington and Mount Union. 7.5 to play in the 4th quarter of that one. It's Mount Union 63, Wilmington 6. Meanwhile, at the Division I level, couple of upsets involving top 25 teams. 23rd ranked Memphis taken down by unranked Temple 30-28. And the shocker of shockers today, South Carolina upending the 3rd ranked Georgia Bulldogs in Athens 20-17. Took double overtime to do it, but Will Muschamp's crew able to get the job done down south.
That was really impressive. A 2-3 team coming into that game, taking on a number 3 ranked Georgia. Georgia has been in the talks all year, all last 3 or 4 years about going to the college football playoff. But a loss like this, I got to tell you, with how competitive it is right now, through those first 4 or 5 teams, I think they might be out.
Harris, meanwhile, with the return for Capitals, he'll take it to the 25-yard line. Just to finish up the score update from games earlier today involving top 25 teams at the Division I level. 16th ranked Michigan defeats Illinois 42-25, and 6th ranked Oklahoma ends up outlasting 11th ranked Texas 34-27 as the Sooners beat the Longhorns in another Red River Shootout. 5.5 to play here in the 4th quarter. John Carroll 83, Capital nothing. Another new quarterback in for Capital. That would be Justin McClellan, 6'1" freshman out of Bidwell, Ohio. And he will hand off. Sebastian McGill, who had a fumble earlier in this quarter, this time is able to hold on to the football. 5:18 and counting here in the 4th quarter. It's been a great day for John Carroll offensively, defensively, heck, even special teams-wise. Meanwhile, for Capital, they've gone through 3 quarterbacks today. They're beat up. They're tired. They'll be back to the drawing board for Chad Rogaszewski's crew after this game as they look to regroup. Here is the carry once again by Sebastian McGill, and he's stacked up at the line of scrimmage.
Number 36, Sebastian McGill, the ball carrier. Stacked up at the line of scrimmage again by number 98, Kevin Long.
4:35 and counting here in the 4th quarter as that clock continues to run. 3rd and long situation now upcoming for the Capital offense. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning that Heidelberg-Marietta game. 38-32. That just looks like a very interesting game from an offensive standpoint. Two really good squads. Pass is incomplete. The intended target was Chad Davis, but that time McClellan not able to find him. And yet again, Capital has got to punt the football away, and it has been an adventure, to say the least, for Capital, even on punt plays. There was one play where Wyatt Pertusa wasn't able to handle the snap cleanly. He was eventually tackled at the 5-yard line. And then here in the fourth quarter, Cam Lee, who was on the punt, had his punt blocked by that special teams quadrant of John Carroll players. So it's no guarantee that Capital will be able to get this one off, as Lee nearly had that one blocked, but he's able to get that one away. And John Carroll, rather than return it, will just let this roll, baby, roll inside the 20. It'll eventually be touched up at the 16-yard line. That is where John Carroll will eventually take over. 3:52 remaining in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 83, Capital nothing. Be sure to join us for the Byers Airport Subaru postgame show. We'll examine the stats, take one final look at scores around the OAC, and get you ready for the next couple of games for Capital, as the month of October not getting any easier. Road games at Mount Union and Ohio Northern before Capital comes back with a home game to start off the month of November with the rival, Otterbein, a team that is also looking for their first win here in 2019. And another new quarterback in for John Carroll. This time it is Joe Enns. How about this? Another Michigan boy, partner, from Grand Rapids. And another run up the middle. This one might be another rushing touchdown for John Carroll. Inside the 30, 25-20, 15-10, 5, touchdown. First touch of this possession, Howard Frazier, sophomore from Alliance, Ohio. He's from Mount Union territory, but he plays for John Carroll. And another ball carrier with a rushing touchdown today for the Blue Streaks. Wow.
It keeps piling on the guys that can do so much for this team. I don't know how many names we've talked about tonight, or how many names we've put together of backs that have made impact plays and have scored touchdowns for the Blue Streaks tonight. Frazier, another one.
The kicker, Anthony Lupo, wears 47 on his jersey. John Carroll has blown past that number today when it comes to scoring. John Carroll 90, Capital nothing with the made extra point. Howard Frazier, 84 yards, took 16 seconds. It's now 90-0 in favor of the Blue Streaks. All right, so Frazier with his first rushing touchdown of the day. 10th overall rushing touchdown by John Carroll.
That's a lot of points, man. That's a lot of rushing touchdowns.
And also a lot of rushing yards as well. I'll be very interested in seeing, reading after this game, if John Carroll came close to setting a single-game record for most rushing yards. Because, boy, they've had some big games running the football, but this one might be the biggest of them all.
And I think, going back to the point you made earlier in the broadcast about time of possession, I could honestly say it might be under 15, 16 minutes for the whole game, because they were at 7 minutes at the half. And every single time they've had the ball so far tonight, it's been short, quick, 2-3 minute possessions, and they're getting the job done.
Well, 12:42 of the fourth quarter, their possession time was at 13:56. So, I don't know. I've never considered myself a math whiz, but the way that they've been going, wouldn't be surprised if they were just under 20, perhaps. Meanwhile, another return here for Harris. 26-yard line. That's where he'll be stacked up and eventually be taken down on the play. Well, with the win today, John Carroll will improve to 4-1 overall, 3-1 within conference play. Capital, meanwhile, they're going to drop to 0-5 overall and 0-4 within OAC play. They, along with Otterbein, will remain the two teams in the conference who have yet to win a game, period, here in 2019. And judging by the upcoming schedules for both teams, boy, that game that they play the first Saturday in November takes on greater importance compared to years in the past, as this will be a simple run up the middle for Capital as they just look to kill some clock at this point.
I think it was
Eric Grant, freshman running back from Suffolk, Virginia, with the carry.
the momentum that last year's game at Otterbein, it was held in such high regard, not even just a rivalry game, because Capital was still looking for their first win back then, and I think Otterbein might have had one, maybe two, and that was an exciting game because it just meant so much for both teams. And if we get to that point and both teams are winless, that just puts on a whole nother component to it.
You're going to see two desperate teams looking to pull out all the stops for that particular game, because it is bad enough when you go winless in a season, potentially. Now, there's still plenty of opportunities for Capital, obviously, to win football games going forward, but it's bad enough if you go winless in a season. It's worse when you go winless in a season and you had a chance to knock off your rival and you couldn't do it. That just adds a little extra sting to the wound a little bit. 2:22 and counting here in the fourth quarter. John Carroll 90, Capital nothing. Capital facing a 3rd and 4 from their own 32-yard line. Again, the schedule doesn't get any easier for Capital. They play at Mountain Union next week. That game is scheduled for a 1:30 kickoff. The following week, they take on a tough Ohio Northern squad before we finally get to that Otterbein game the first Saturday in November. And another carry, this time by Justin McClellan, as he'll take it across the 32, about the 32-yard line or so. This will bring up a 4th and short. And Capital chooses to punt the football away with about 1:33 remaining in the fourth quarter. So Capital will just simply give the ball back to John Carroll for the second straight year. The Blue Streaks will shut out Capital. Last year, it was by a 44-0 margin. This year, it'll be by a 90-0 margin. Lee gets it away cleanly. Leopold is just going to let this ball bounce. It'll go inside the 10. It'll be downed at the 4-yard line. 55.7 seconds remain in this game. Byers Airport Subaru postgame show right around the corner, as we will wrap up this game. Very disappointing result for Capital, to say the least, here on this homecoming of 2019. But these problems that we have seen from Capital offensively, they're not going to get any better until the execution improves, until Capital finds a way to eliminate these mistakes, not hurting themselves with turnovers and penalties, being able to convert on 3rd down, keeping drives alive. Until they're able to clean up those areas, Tom, this offense is not going to get any better.
Completely agree with everything you just said. All those things go into how this game turns out and how the rest of the season has been. Everything needs to be under a microscope at this point, and it starts from the ground up, and it starts with the fundamentals and attention to detail and just the mental aspect of the game, because there are so many parts of this game where it's either an effort, a mental aspect that just it needs to be cleaned up, and those are things that can be corrected in a couple weeks of practice. And if they are, I feel like this team has so much potential, because there are weapons on this team. There are guys that can run the football. There's guys that are like Cam Lee that are 6'5" and can get up and get a ball. David Barnett as well. I know he was hurt tonight and it hurt him badly, along with Antoine Shipp, but man, it's tough to see these guys go out like this on homecoming. But you got to go back to the drawing board and just try to find a way to, learn from this and find a way to win a game.
Clock will hit zeros here at Byrne-Lawrence Stadium. It was a beatdown here on homecoming today, as John Carroll blanks Capital by a final of 90-0. This has been a presentation of Crusaders football here on athletics.capital.edu. Coming up, the Byers Airport Subaru postgame show. Again, John Carroll 90, Capital nothing. We'll be back in just a moment. Hello and welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Burnlor Stadium as Capital is defeated by John Carroll today by a final of 90-0. Not a happy homecoming result by any means for Chad Rogaszewski and his team. This was a game that John Carroll dominated seemingly from start to finish as we welcome you into the Byers Airport Subaru postgame show. Let's go ahead and name today's play of the game. Boy, there were a lot of big plays for John Carroll. Tom, which one stood out to you the most?
I want to go back to the very first drive of the game. Capital had the ball. They were driving down to about the 30-yard line of JCU. At that point, in my head, I was thinking, hey, man, these guys got a shot at this game. They're going to compete because they were doing everything right. Mayock was completing passes. Mike Smith and others were making great catches. They were staying away from the run game because the run game was not effective at all today. And they stayed through the air, and it started working. And then Mayock threw that interception. That interception right there was the game. Because as soon as that happened, the scheme changed. The entire vibe of the entire Crusader team was different, and the confidence level just dropped off a cliff. And right from then on, it was run up the score. There was never a drive that they put together again that was anywhere competitive compared to the one that they had in the very beginning. And it was just like they flipped a switch after the first drive of the game. Like, here we go again. And that's the mindset you have to stay away from. And you have to stick with the mindset, hey, we're going to go at them again. We're going to stay through the air again and drive it right down their throats and score a touchdown. I think that pick was the deciding factor right at the very beginning of the game.
So that's our play of the game. Meanwhile, player of the game brought to you by Pepsi. I think you got to give it to one of the tailbacks for John Carroll because of the way that John Carroll ran the ball today. Tom, which one do you pick?
I have to give it to Canganelli because he got the most carries for the most amount of yards. But, I mean, all 5 of those guys really put on a show because everyone was effective tonight. But Canganelli, 156 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. His longest was 55 yards. He was able to just wheel and deal, shift between guys. And he has a lot of really nice pro-style back moves. He's able to sit and wait for the holes to open up from his O-line and pick that spot. And he's able to shift through guys and break tackles. I think he's going to be very valuable to the Blue Streaks come middle November.
Let's now go ahead and take a look at the rest of the statistics for this game. First, the team statistics. John Carroll, 21 first downs as opposed to only 9 for Capital today. 564 rushing yards for John Carroll on only 40 carries. Let me bust out my calculator here real quick because I really want to know what the yards per carry was. So ball carriers for John Carroll as a whole averaged 14.1 yards a pop. That is pretty impressive. Compare that to Capital, ran the ball 42 times for only 47 yards, which means that Capital ball carriers were only averaging 1.1 yards per carry. I mean, it just goes to show you, Tom, if you can run the football effectively, it sets up your passing game. It puts the defense on edge. If you struggle running the football, really changes your scheme a little bit, puts a lot of pressure on your quarterback, and makes you really one-dimensional.
Completely. It's cause and effect. These guys were able to run the football effectively, and when they wanted to pass the ball, they could. They threw maybe 5 or 6 passes in the second half, and almost every single one was completed because their guys were open because it opened up the run game because Capital had no idea what they were going to because most of the time they did run the ball, but when they passed it, it worked. And that's football right there. That's good, solid football that's going to win you games.
John Carroll, 131 passing yards, Capital 94. Total offense, John Carroll, 695 yards, Capital 141. Penalties, John Carroll 6 for 49, Capital 4 for 39. Possession time. Okay, we've been wondering about this. Capital held the ball for 54 minutes and 4 seconds. John Carroll, 19 minutes and 32 seconds. Yet they put 90 points up on the board. I've watched a lot of football. High school, college, professional. Tom, I have never seen a team dominate the way they did on the scoreboard with such little time of possession. John Carroll made it look easy when operating on offense today.
When you cross-reference the score to the time of possession, like you said, it's mind-boggling. But like I said in the middle of the fourth quarter, they got the ball inside the 35-yard line almost every single time in the second half, and that's how they capitalized. Plus, they had other scores when it came to kick blocks and pick sixes. So it goes to show that they were never in a situation where they needed to put together a big drive. They were always 35, 40 yards out, and it only took a couple runs from one of their backs to get into the end zone. And that's one of the issues because Capital would only get down to about the 25, 30-yard line before it was a 3-and-out and they had to punt. And their punt's not going more than the 50, 40-yard line. So, and the the punt return game from John Carroll was exceptional today. They got down to the 25, 20-yard line a handful of times today to set up a drive, and that's how you win football games, and that's how you score 90 points on a team in one game.
Third down conversions, John Carroll 2 of 6, 0-0 fourth down, 7 of 8 when it came to red zone scores out of chances. Meanwhile for Capital, never got in the red zone, 0 of 2 on fourth down, 0 of 13 on third down conversions. Boy, it's bad enough that you can't run the football, but when you can't convert on third down conversions, that shows me that you can't keep drives going. It just makes things a lot tougher for your team offensively going forward. Now on to the individual statistics. What a game it was for Michael Caganelli. 13 carries, 156 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 12 yards on the ground per carry, and he had a long of 55 in this game as well. Howard Frazier, 5 carries for 170 yards, long of 84. He had a rushing touchdown. Devin Limerick, 3 carries for 65 yards. He had a couple of scores. Also, Matthew Buser with a couple scores. 10 rushing touchdowns overall for John Carroll today. It was a show, an absolute show that was put on by John Carroll when it came to running the football. Jake Floria, their quarterback, didn't have to do a lot of throwing today. He went 6 of 8 through the air for 117 passing yards and a score. Joe Collins, 1 of 2 through the air for 14 yards. Receiving, Evan Nugent, he had 3 catches for 83 yards and a score. Keyshawn Coleman, 2 catches for 29 yards. Gavin Martick, 1 catch for 14 yards. And Devin Limerick, 1 catch for 5 yards. Capital, meanwhile, offensively, Evan Butler, 22 rushing yards on 10 carries. A long of 9, an average of 2.2. Dylan Schoonover, 8 carries for 18 yards. Jane Giantanita with 5 carries for 13 yards. And McGill, 5 carries for 10 yards for Capital today. Mitchell Mayshock was the one who got the start at quarterback today. He goes 9 of 16 through the air for 75 yards. No touchdowns, 1 interception. Andrew Ray came on to throw the football some at quarterback for Capital. 3 of 6 through the air, 19 yards and an interception. Smith, 5 catches for 29 yards. Evan Butler, 2 catches for 14. Sam Pickett, 1 catch for 14. And Cam Lee, 1 catch for 12 yards. So, with the win today, John Carroll improves to 4-1 overall, 3-1 within conference play. Capital, meanwhile, drops to 0-5 overall and 0-4 within conference play. And, Tom, like I said later on in the broadcast, things do not get any easier for Capital in that they have to go to Mountain Union next Saturday. They have to go to Ohio Northern to finish up the month of October. Those are 2 really good teams in the OAC.
Yeah, this month of October is going to be tough. I know Rogashevsky's going to go to the drawing board and try to figure out what to do when they go to Mount Union. And we know the talent level that Mount Union has. And I think you have to take the next couple games with a grain of salt, but you also have to take a lot of the, plays and what happens as an evaluation for going into those games like Wilmington, Muskingum, Otterbein, because those are the games that, those are very winnable games, and they won them last year. Capital was winless going into the second half of the season. Then they beat Otterbein. Then they beat Wilmington. Then they beat Muskingum. It was it was an all right year, bouncing back after the first half of the year. So I really think that second half of the year, it's going to be better for them. But they have to be able to evaluate and correct their mistakes from what we've seen so far.
Well, once again, partner, thanks for sticking with me and thanks for helping me call the game. Really appreciate it. You will hear from us in the first Saturday of November. That would be November 2nd when Capital takes on Otterbein. The rivalry game will begin at 1:30 p.m. We will get things started with the Freshies pregame show beginning at 1 o'clock that afternoon. For my broadcast partner, Tom Cavanaugh, this is Charlie Daniels saying one final time. The final score today from Burton Stadium, John Carroll 90, Capital 0. This has been a presentation of Crusader Football here on athletic.capital.edu.